Providers don't connect on their own. You ensure there's power because you are the business. Get Flex on Pro SIM-only with 6 gigs all-network anytime data, 1,000 Telkom to Telkom minutes and much more for 299 Rand per month from Telkom Business. Get a business loan from Telkom Lend and do business big. Call 10213 or click telkom.co.za. T's and C's apply.
Coming up in your sports this hour, condolences continue to pour in for former Kaizer Chiefs defender Siphiwe Mkhonza. Bucks rally behind Buthelezi after the hijacking and kidnapping ordeal. And South Africa under-21 netball team confirmed. More details at 3:30.
Real savings, real benefits. Here's what real clients say about OUTsurance.
My name is Alan. I'm 71 years of age and I live in Douglasdale. I'm paying 554 Rand a month for my 2022 Nissan Magnite.
Want a car insurance premium that'll blow your mind? SMS out to 30754 now for a quote. It's quick, it's easy, and it could save you hundreds of rands every month. Here's Amy.
To anyone who has not reached out to OUTsurance, what are you doing? Reach out today.
Blow your mind, not your paycheck. SMS out to 30754 and see for yourself why OUTsurance was voted Best Car Insurer 2023 by the Star and Pretoria newsreaders. Here's Yusuf.
It just shows that OUTsurance is top of the tops when it comes to insurers.
SMS out to 30754 now. That's out to 30754. OUTsurance is a licensed insurer and FSP. T's, C's and limits apply. Premiums are risk profile dependent and reviewed annually. Client comments do not constitute financial advice.
Some say, Ematot Ipheli. Others are saying, who X Bangasoveli? Black and white, tackles, gold and black in the DSTV Premiership. This is the Soweto Derby, Mzansi's biggest football jamboree. Sazoshuba, Amapaganea versus Amakosi on Saturday, 9 March at 2:30 p.m. Live on SABC 1 and SABC radio stations. Also available on SABC Plus and SABCSport.com. Hashtag, we love it here. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
Beyond the Headline on SAFM. Weekdays, 3 to 6 p.m.
Hello, John N for Eldrin. Today is 7 minutes past 3. Hello and welcome to the show. Lekker to be along with you on a Tuesday. It is Tuesday. Sunny skies in Johannesburg. Lovely, partly cloudy weather. Late summer. Oh, is it still summer or is it late summer? Whatever it is, it's just lekker. It's not autumn yet. Can't be autumn yet because it's 33 degrees in some parts of the country. We're going to be talking about that. In fact, we're going to be talking about environmental organizations who held a protest the opening day of the Africa Energy Indaba in Cape Town. They are saying a lot of this gas, they're calling it intermittent, it's an in-between source. So as we're moving from coal to other sorts of energies, be that power, electricity, sun or wind or waves, whatever it might be. Gas is the thing that everybody is touting, and they are saying, we don't need those gas. That gas is actually worse than coal. So we're going to talk to the advocacy officer at the Green Connection and find out some of those myths that they are talking about. In a moment, we're going to get is it good news or bad news from Zimbabwe? That's 20-year-old sanctions across the whole of Zimbabwe have been lifted by the United States of America, and they have imposed individual sanctions on the president and a number of the people in his close circle. We'll find out what that means. While we're talking about that, we will go to Ukraine, get an update on the Russia-Ukraine war. Norway's ambassador to South Africa penned an article in the Sunday Times this last week, and they put some big warnings out to South Africa. One of those is, if we abandon the core principles of the UN Charter to appease an aggressor, can any UN member state feel confident that it is protected? Also, don't be wary of the promises that Russia are making to Africa. That's Geermund Seether will join us, the ambassador to South Africa from Norway. We'll talk to Geermund later on in the show. Then The good news is that the economy hasn't declined, hasn't decreased. We're not in a recession. 0.1% growth in the fourth quarter of last year, despite all of our Christmas spending, despite all of us driving to all over the country, 0.1% growth. We'll see what that means, and I'm sure we'll get plenty more in our business news and updates throughout the show as well. Then we'll talk to the Independent Electoral Commission. They're doing a thing to try and get the youth to vote more. And then towards the end of the program, a good news story from the Chris Hani Baragwanath Academic Hospital. They've partnered with the Ronald McDonald House Charities to provide critical maternal and children's health services to communities. And there's some lovely little initiatives that they've done there. We're going to find out why at this particular hospital, what they do, how they do it, and what this partnership is all about. And then there's some breaking news that's just happened now. There might be a bus strike over Easter. The spokesperson for the National Union of Metalworkers of South Africa will be joining us. They are asking for an increase in allowance for second drivers, an 8% across-the-board salary increment. They've come down to 8% for their requests. We will find out from Pakamile Hlubi Majola later on in the show what their demands are. Is there going to be a national bus strike? We will find out. It's 11 minutes past 3. I am Jon Gericke in for Eldrin. Let's go beyond the headline.
You are listening to Jon Gericke on SFM.
Let's start with stories from the United States, where the U.S. Supreme Court has unanimously ruled that states cannot ban Donald Trump from running for president because of allegations that he incited an insurrection. The state of Colorado had banned Trump from standing in his primary election to choose the Republican presidential candidate, arguing that Mr. Trump was barred from being a candidate because he had incited the 2021 Capitol riot. However, the Supreme Court has ruled the state had acted unlawfully because only Congress and other individual states had that power. Mr. Trump is the overwhelming frontrunner for the Republican nomination, looks likely to face Democratic President Joe Biden in November's presidential election. More from the BBC's Gary O'Donoghue.
9 Supreme Court justices, one unanimous decision, clearing the way for Donald Trump to remain on the presidential ballot now and for November's general election. Following hard on the heels of last week's decision by the court to intervene in a criminal case over his part in the Capitol riots, the former president was today singing the court's praises.
I have great respect for the Supreme Court, and I want to just thank them for working so quickly and so diligently and so brilliantly. And again, this is a unifying factor.
Several states had tried to exclude the former president in their primaries, citing a provision in the Constitution passed after the Civil War barring insurrectionists from holding national office. While the 9 justices took no view on whether he'd engaged in an insurrection, they said the states had no power under the Constitution to enforce the provision with respect to federal offices, and Congress alone could do that. While Donald Trump's legal problems have taken a turn for the better, he still faces a criminal trial later this month in New York over hush money payments to a porn star, and a federal trial, possibly in the summer, over his retention of classified documents after he left office. He's also been hit by fines and compensation payments of well over $400 million following his defeats in 2 civil trials. All these legal difficulties have in fact been a double-edged sword for the former president. He's managed to raise huge amounts of money off the back of them, and by politicising the court cases, he's motivated his own supporters. But the polls still show that some voters in those key swing states won't vote for him if he becomes a convicted felon before the election. Despite all his legal problems, the former president looks set to sweep the board tomorrow when 15 states vote in the Republican primary. His nomination for the candidacy is all but secure. His legal worries still far from over.
And Gary joins us now from the Supreme Court. Gary, tomorrow is one of the biggest days for the race to the White House. What can we expect?
Well, Tina, this case was an existential threat to Donald Trump's candidacy, and no one really believed it would go against it. But even so, this win does open the way for him to clinch this nomination. He's already swept the board up to now, bar the District of Columbia, where his main rival won. But tomorrow, he could do a clean sweep of all those 15 states. It won't mathematically guarantee him the nomination, but it will put him practically unassailable. His main candidate, his main opposition, opposition candidate, Nikki Haley, will have to then decide what she does next. In terms of his legal strategy, it's been summed up in one word: delay, delay, delay. And bear in mind, if he can delay those criminal charges, those criminal cases, until after November, and he were to win the general election in November, he can simply make his Justice Department make them go away.
It's 3:15 with SAFM. More in a moment on our international story, including global leaders continue to monitor Russia's war against the Ukraine. And we're hoping to get an update from Zimbabwe as well. Is that ready? Can we go to our Zimbabwe correspondent? Not yet. Let's go to a quick ad break and we'll take some calls as well. Oh, I forgot to give you the numbers. As always, you should know the numbers by now if they're not on your phone. And if you're just joining us, how's it? 086 000 2032 is the phone number if you want to have a little chat, and we'll take calls later on in the show as well. 086 000 2032, our voice note number, as always, 0614 104 107.
Top Sport with Michael Abramson.
Our cricket correspondent from KenBorland.com. Ken Borland, what a match it was. An incredible end to the 4-day domestic series with the home sides, the DP World Lions, doing it by 99 runs. Was it basically due to one man's batting efforts?
No, it wasn't. As incredibly well as Delano Potgieter played, and, I think this final will be remembered as Delano Potgieter's final. He scored 81 and an epic 155 not out. He had fantastic support, especially from the lower order. And I guess that's what just really showed the character, the tenacity, the belief of this Lions team.
Top Sport on SAFM. The Market Update, Monday to Thursday, 6 to 7 p.m.
Want to stay ahead of the financial game? Join us tonight from 6 to 7 p.m. for an insightful journey through the day's market developments, financial updates, and investment news. Tune in for your daily dose of financial intelligence as we navigate the twists and turns of the financial landscape with expert insights. Only on the SAFM Market Update.
SAFM Market Update with Jimmy Muyaha. Hashtag SAFMBTH.
2 decades-old Zimbabwe sanctions have been lifted. Yesterday, the United States of America imposed sanctions on Zimbabwe's President Emmerson Mnangagwa and his wife and other senior leaders, citing rights abuses and corruption. It comes months after the president was re-elected to a second term in a contest that the opposition party and a human rights group said was tainted by fraud. What does the decision mean for the country moving forward and for South Africa maybe as well? Let's find out with Martha Shumba, civil society activist who is anti-sanctions. Martha, thank you very much for joining us. What does this mean for Zimbabwe?
Thank you so much for having me. This is great news, actually. For civil society and individuals that have been involved in this campaign. I think we've been pestering you guys, the SAFM, SABC, for time to speak about this. This means a lot. It simply means 90% of sanctions on Zimbabwe, on the government of Zimbabwe, is now gone. 90%. So this is great news. It means now there is the ability to borrow for government and businesses to borrow money for development, for anything that needs to be done for the country, by machinery, payment clearance, which has been difficult, using third parties, making it very, very expensive. So it really means a lot for the country of Zimbabwe, for the removal of this. And we just want to thank everybody who was involved. And for the USA to make this decision to remove these executive orders is actually it's something that is so amazing for all of us. So the way forward is now kind of clear, and we are happy. We are really happy. And these are not the first sanctions that the USA have removed, actually. In May 2020, they removed the Infrastructure Development Bank, the Agricultural Development Bank. So people have been celebrating this infrastructure, the roads that's been, developed recently, and the agriculture, we had some boom harvest happening, and people are asking themselves, like, where is this investment now coming in? Why is this moving on? It's because of these sanctions have been removed. So it's really great.
What do you make of the remaining sanctions? So now they're targeting 3 companies, 11 people, including the vice president and the president himself and his wife. Do you want those removed as well? Or are you okay with that because of what they are doing?
Okay. So, my opinion on the 11 and those who are still on the list is that, one, first I'll say this, the government no longer have an excuse not to perform. Incompetence, they no longer have an excuse. Sanctions have been used as a political tool to just get some political mileage for both the government and the opposition. Now that we've got this out of the way, the most important, the most frustrating out of the way, it now proves that we were right all along by saying that these sanctions were targeting the government, were targeting the country. Now, what targeted the government and the country is no longer on the way. It's now on the individuals. So when it comes to these individuals, we go back to say, they need to re-evaluate their methods of doing things. And I'm saying this as somebody who is kind of a sympathizer of the government, to say this is not just about sanctions in the outside world, but us as Zimbabweans. There are so many grievances that we have when it comes to our leadership. And this is something that they need to work on. I'm not justifying them being on the list, by the way. I'm just speaking as a citizen. Recently, we addressed the issue of some of the citizens who were evicted from their homes and their land taken, their houses destroyed. Even though the government had to revise that, this is me as a citizen who's going out to the world and say we need investors, we need this, we need that. But a citizen don't have property rights, don't have land rights. This is something that I'll put on the president to say, sanctions aside, there are certain things that as a country we need to work on. We can't keep on being painted for things like that. Yes.
Government spokesperson has said that it's a vindication of the president's foreign policy, but then goes on to say that the current sanctions are illegal sanctions. So it's rare that somebody will celebrate the fact that there are fewer sanctions, but I guess every little victory. Do you think these are illegal sanctions against the president and his inner circle?
I think that's a minor irritation. Honestly, it's a minor irritation that is not going to hinder, 90% of our progress as a country.
Right. We
can manage with the current situation. What is important is out of the way. What is important can no longer stress us up as long as we can reach out. So there are. When it comes to this, I can say, seriously, we can't be toying over this. We can't really continue be toying over this. What was important is out of the way. A lot of work to be done. As a country, individuals, businesses, the government and its citizens needs to now focus on fixing our country and not just the propaganda out there. And I'm not speaking from an opposition mindset. I'm speaking from somebody who really loves the country. So there are some leaders, I can say this, during the campaign we had leaders who were within the ruling party who didn't want sanctions to go because they benefited from it.
All right, Martha, we need to
we
need to leave it there, unfortunately. Yes. Martha Shumba, thank you very much, civil society activist, and was anti-sanctions, as you heard. Her views on the lifting of a 2 decades-old Zimbabwe sanction program now being more targeted.
#SAFMBTH.
Fly better to your next holiday. Book your flights with Emirates to a holiday in Dubai, London, Istanbul or Paris. Look forward to delicious regionally inspired cuisine, enjoy free-flowing premium drinks, and relax to your favorite movies on the way. Because it's not just about the destination, it's how you get there. This year, fly Emirates. Fly better.
2 champions will collide as EFC returns live this Thursday. Watch the first title defense of flyweight sensation Gift the Day Walker against the current bantamweight title holder, the legendary Nkazimulu King Shaka Zulu. who aims to join teammate Drickus du Plessis and once more being a two-division champion of Africa. EFC 111 live this Thursday. Watch it on SABC Sport Channel on DTT Channel 4 from 7 p.m. Brought to you by SABC Sport.
You are listening to Jon Gericke on SAFM.
3:25 with SAFM as global leaders continue to monitor Russia's war against Ukraine, which has been going on for 2 years now. Norway's ambassador to South Africa, Jon Gericke, says if we abandon the core principles of the UN Charter to appease an aggressor, can any UN member state feel confident that it's protected? He also argues that Russian authorities have isolated themselves from the rest of Europe and brought back terrible memories of World War II. What kind of solutions are needed to end the war in Ukraine? Let's speak to Jon Gericke himself, ambassador to South Africa. Ambassador, thank you very much for joining us. The strongly worded piece that you put in the Sunday Times, what is the solution to this issue?
Well, the solution is very simple. Russia just has to follow international law like everybody else and stay within the borders. So, very basic, simple solution. They stay within the borders like everyone else is doing. Then it's not a problem.
Why are there people that would disagree with you and say that Russia are doing the right thing here?
Yeah, well, I'm not sure if there's so many who think they're doing the right thing, but there are some doubts I see around different parts of the world. I think there is a misunderstanding in terms of what Russia's intentions are and also what the intentions of the governing party is all about. This is about restoring some kind of Russian greatness that has been lost. But we have seen this all too often in Europe over centuries, and we are tired of it. This idea that the big powers can just use the principle of might is right, invade neighboring countries, take what they want, to grab what they like. That is the old European way of imperialism and colonialism, and we are done with it. We're not going to have more of it. And I think that's sometimes when people talk about the NATO expansion as the cause. No, I disagree. It's not the NATO expansion. It's the expansion of democracy that is the problem for Russia. Russia obviously don't tolerate democracy within their own country, and they don't want other countries like Ukraine to have a free and independent foreign policy. And that's why they invaded.
So let's talk more about that NATO aggression. NATO putting military into Ukraine, that was one of the arguments as well, knocking on the door of Russia, as Putin's been saying. Is that a security threat to Russia?
It's not, because Ukraine, as any other country, they want to have security for the citizens and they want to have a good living standard for the citizens. When they look to the West, when they look to Europe, they see, people have freedom, they have rising living standards, and they have security. When they look to the East, they see no democracy, no freedom, and a lot of poverty. So obviously, Ukraine must be free to make their choices as they please, like any other country in the world. But when they do that, then Russia don't accept it, because they have this old-fashioned idea of sphere of interest, that they want to dominate the neighborhood.
Is South Africa's role in this situation the right role?
I think we have a very good dialogue with the South African government. We appreciate very much that they are participating in the Ukraine Peace Formula, and the African Peace Initiative led by President Ramaphosa last year was very good. But when I'm out and about in society, I sometimes hear these ideas about NATO expansion as being the cause. And as we have been neighbors with 1,000 years, for 1,000 years we have been neighbors with Russia. So I hope that the perspective of me and the ambassador of Lithuania can provide some input, because just like we have, if we wonder about the conflict in Mozambique, for example, we value very much the perspective from South Africa and South African institutions. So in that sense, I think European countries and neighboring countries like Norway and Lithuania, we can add something to this debate in South Africa.
As you say, border, it's not a large border, but do you and Finland, Estonia, Latvia, do you worry when you see what goes on in Ukraine and think we could be next?
There is a worry. I think, like for any country, just think about it as a theoretical exercise. If a neighboring country X of South Africa attacks neighboring country Y, then you would be you would not be happy about it. And of course, we also see this rhetoric from the Russian leadership talk about use of nuclear weapons. So this is obviously a threat trying to dominate the whole of Europe, but we don't accept that anymore. We have had that for centuries. We are tired of it.
Ambassador, one of the things you say is that Russia's convincing the peoples of Africa that it's a brother in arms against colonialism. Russia did help Africa through the dark days of colonialism, and they're just looking for support and help now, and that's what they're trying to do.
Well, I guess the Soviet Union did, in fact, help liberation movement in southern Africa. So did Norway and other Nordic countries. So that's one thing. But if we look at the governing party of Russia today, it's a far-right party. It supports the far-right in Europe, that want to restrict immigration to a minimum, the far-right that have racist tendencies in some countries. And they're also favoring a very raw form of capitalism. So I think for us, it's hard to understand why left-leaning parties in African countries that also see upon themselves as progressive, why they team up with the far right of Russia.
We've got to go to the news as there's been saber rattling from Putin. Do you think this will end? Or what is you say that the way to end it is for Russia to stop the aggression. Do you even see that happening?
Well, I hope it will happen. I hope they will take to their senses. But I think we stand with Ukraine. We stand with Ukraine. They are bearing the brunt of this violence and destruction every day. So they will have to be in the lead. The peace that will have to come will have to be on Ukraine's terms as well. So we will follow the lead from Ukraine.
Norway's ambassador to South Africa, Guillaume Nseda. Thank you very much. It's 29 minutes to 4 o'clock. Let's get the latest news headlines.
Good afternoon. In the headlines, International Relations Minister Naledi Pandor has called on the powerful nations such as the United States of America to use their power to ensure that humanitarian aid is delivered in Gaza. Media 24 editorial director Charlene Rolls says Google undermines revenue generation in advertising and subscriptions at Media 24. She says this is due to Google dominating the entire advertising industry on the internet. And the Gauteng provincial budget includes 1.7 billion rand that will be allocated to the Department of Economic Development in the 2024-2025 financial year to address unemployment in the province. I'll have details on these and other stories at 4.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
28 minutes to 4 o'clock. You're with SAFM. Let's get the latest traffic news with Rob Byrne.
Thanks, John. Good afternoon. The Mike 1 through Central Joburg, pretty busy today. If you're leaving Joburg, heading up towards Sandton, just going to sit in a little bit of build-up from about 11th Avenue right through to Grayston Drive in Sandton. Grayston Drive, by the way, coming out of Sandton, quite heavy from the Ravonia Road junction, moving through to Catherine Street. So if you're on that section of Grayston, trying to get out towards the Mike 1 highway, it's just very busy today. Breakdown on Pretoria's N1 South at Rigel Avenue. That's pushing traffic very quickly back to Garsfontein Road. It's one of those really busy afternoons that you encounter every so often, leaving Pietermaritzburg on your way to Durban with breakdowns just south of Pietermaritzburg, one at Ashburton, one at Linfield Park, and that backlog is quite substantial. Cape Town today, the N2, Nelson Mandela Boulevard, looking okay. It's busy ahead of rush hour, but no major problems towards Hospital Bend. The M5, probably the busiest highway from Maitland, moving slowly in towards the Kromboom Road exit in the Rondebosch area, and some roadworks on Yipti Yaga Drive. They've been there for a while in that Durbanville area, but causing delays both directions. Door to Kraal section, Yipti Yaga, both ways very slow. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
This is SAFM Sports with Duming Kapele.
I'm told I have to introduce you, but the man with the nice voice just introduced you. SAFM Sport. Hello.
Hi, John.
I know there's cameras and things in the studio.
Yeah.
I don't know if we're supposed to say it, but I've said it. Do you dress up specially for those cameras? Because you look lovely today.
No, I don't always dress up, actually.
No, you look fantastic.
Thank you very much.
I feel very underdressed in my shorts and a T-shirt. So it's very formal sport today.
Yeah, Absolutely. A very good afternoon to you. Let's start things off with football. Well, condolences have continued to pour in for former Bafana and Kaizer Chiefs defenders Puem Konza, who passed away due to kidney infection this morning. Messages to his family have been shared across social media, with his former clubs Kaizer Chiefs, SuperSport United and Golden Arrows paying their tribute. Konza was admitted at Charlotte Maxeke Academic Hospital a month ago and then was released after showing signs of recovery. At the time of his passing, he was working as a football analyst here at SABC, and a colleague and former Bafana coach Owen De Gama says that his talent will be sorely missed.
As a colleague, as a player that I interacted with so many times, Sipiwe Konza, highly intelligent boy, highly intelligent. What a waste. I think this boy could have gone on and achieved so much more, not only as an analyst, but moving on as a coach. He was an absolutely brilliant coach, and he knew the game. He understood the game. And it really saddens me that he's departed at such a young age. So I really feel very sad. And it's a great loss to South African football. Dr. Mnandi.
May he rest in peace. Then, still staying with football, after going through a traumatic experience of hijacking and kidnapping, Orlando Pirates head coach Jose Rivero has revealed that the club has created a safe environment for its goalkeeper to also help with his mental state. Buthelezi was hijacked and kidnapped in Thokoza Ekurhuleni last Thursday evening at around 20 to 9, but police confirmed that he returned home safe and unharmed the following morning.
About the issue, what I can tell you is that he's back, he's okay, he's fit, he's in a safe space with us, and that's what we try to create. I'm not talking about security, I'm talking about mental safe or mental health. So we're trying, and especially his teammates are trying to help him to be back 100%. And
moving on to netball news, with 2 weeks remaining before the commencement of the Netball World Cup Youth Cup 2025 qualifiers Africa in Pretoria, Netball South Africa have finalized the 12 players who will represent the country in mid-March. Now, the team went to a training camp 2 weeks ago with a total of 15 players, which has now been narrowed down to 12. The final 12 will convene next week for last-minute preparations for the qualifiers. And following Jenny van Dijk's appointment as the head coach of the Spar Proteas, Precious Mthembu, the former assistant coach of the under-21 team, assumes the position of a head coach, and she'll be joined by another Spar Proteas legend, Phumza Maweni, as her assistant. In cricket, Johnny Bairstow says that he's set for an emotional week as he becomes the 16th man to play 100 tests for England. Bairstow will reach the landmark in the 5th test against India, 12 years after making his debut against West Indies, and he follows Ben Stokes to a century of England caps after the captain achieved the milestone in the 3rd test of the series. Ending things off with tennis, Novak Djokovic returns to Indian Wells for the first time in a whopping 5 years, seeking a record 6th title, with Coco Gauff looking to become the first U.S. woman to win the tournament since Serena Williams in 2001, when main draw action begins tomorrow. Now, the Serbian winner of 24 Grand Slam titles hasn't competed at the BNP Paribas Open since 2019 due to U.S. travel restrictions related to COVID-19, but he has looked relaxed in Southern California in the past weeks, catching Lakers and LA Galaxy games and training at the UCLA. On that note, it is a wrap from my side for now. I'll have more in the next hour. For SAFM Sport, I'm Dumin Khabel.
SAFM 104 to 107 nationwide.
And we will buy 500 cars, and we will buy 500 more, just to be the one who buys your car. Will come to you and offer more. We buy cars, we buy cars. We buy cars, we buy cars.
We Buy Cars, the easiest way to sell your car by far.
Third-placed VfB Stuttgart understand that only victory will get them close to the top two teams on the table, whereas Union Berlin have a mammoth task to cause an upset away from home. Who will dictate terms at the MHP Arena? This is the Bundesliga, football as it's meant to be. Experience the German style of the game. VfB Stuttgart FC versus FC Union Berlin on Friday, 8 March at 9:30 p.m. Live on SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4. Also available on SABC Plus and SABCSport.com. Hashtag We Love It Here. Brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
Coming up on the book reading, Why Men Had Women.
There was and still is a practice called hofiria in Sesotho, though most people use the term hushela from the isiZulu ukshela. A rough English equivalent used by many people is proposing love, which may be the worst ever translation. This is how it works. A man approaches a woman. It is a very heteronormative practice to persuade her that he loves her and that she should love him in return.
Catch the book reading on SFM Monday to Thursday at 11:45 on the Talking Point.
Conversations that you connect with and react to. SAFM.
Coming up in a moment, our country's economy grew by 0.1% in the fourth quarter of last year. But looking at the numbers, and hopefully my guest, Dr. Azar Jamin, will explain this to me a little bit more, but most of the things are looking quite good. There was a lot of increase. It was just one or two things that were down, three or four things that were down, but by quite a lot. And I think that's the important thing. So trade, and I think maybe these are the big ones as well. Trade, agriculture, construction, and government were weaker. Agriculture, forestry, and fishing down 9.7%. Because of field crops, so grain, sorghum, hay, sugarcane, chicory root, a couple of other things as well, down almost 10%. But everything else is looking pretty good. Fewer load shedding in the fourth quarter of last year. There were only 63 days. Can't believe I'm saying that. Real estate business services grew by 0.6%. Manufacturing edged higher as well. It's just those big ones, the ones we rely on, I guess you could say. Agriculture, construction, government down. And Dr. Azar Jamin will try and explain what all that means as well. And then the Electoral Commission of South Africa is out and about. They've gone to tertiary institutions aiming to improve youth's understanding and participation in the democracy and why they should vote. Those numbers are really, really small. The youth didn't vote last time. Only 35% of youth aged 20 to 29 voted last time around. Less than 10% of eligible voters aged 18 to 29 registered to vote in the elections. Those are the 21 municipal elections. So the IEC doing big things to try and improve that lot. So all of that's coming up in a moment. Let's take some voice notes on 086 000. Voice note number 0614 104 107.
Good afternoon, Jon Gericke and your hard-working team behind you. Not forgetting all SAFM listeners. My name is Mpepumpreni from Limpopo, Mkumbane Village. John, I'm paying much attention to all parties' manifestos, from ruling party to opposing parties. We have sensitive problems as a country. Problems such as level of unemployment, electricity problem, crime, poverty, etc., etc. In all parties' manifestos, they just say we will end unemployment, we will fix ESCOM, we will create jobs. John, all these people don't say how are they going to fix all these problems. We want reasons to solve all the problems. We don't want these abracadabra reasons and all of those things. We want reasons. How are they going to solve these problems? Thank you so much. Mpepumpereni, Limpopo Mkumbane Village.
Hi, John. I remember when Uncle Bob was dethroned, there was a whole lot of hype about it, and still a majority of Zimbabweans still remain in the country. And I can tell you now, this lifting of sanctions will mean nothing to the ordinary man in the street. And there is hype again, but still, history will repeat itself. Majority of Zimbabweans will remain here in the country. Kumi, Pretoria.
Aldrin, good afternoon. This is Flores from the Western Cape. Aldrin, with regards to the SABC
decision to take down the Afrikaans news. I think it's violating our rights as an Afrikaans-speaking group, that we cannot be served in a language that we're comfortable with and that we prefer. It's enshrined in the Constitution about the rights that we have of our cultural language, especially the older generation who loves the news in Afrikaans. First, it was Seven de Laan who's been taken away from our Afrikaans-speaking community. It's the third most spoken language in South Africa. Why and how the SABC came to the conclusion of taking it down is beyond my imagination. But this is really scarring people emotionally. If you talk to someone in his language, you're speaking to his heart. You show respect actually for that person. Yeah, but that's it. Have a good show.
We are trying to get hold of somebody at SABC News and see if they can answer that question for you. So what time did you say? 4:20. We'll see. After 5 o'clock, we're going to see if we can get somebody to answer that question at SABC News. Are they dropping the Afrikaans news bulletin?
Good afternoon. I'm not sure why the lady from Zimbabwe is smiling and laughing and excited, because, the driver has not changed. Mnangagwa is still in power. Whether the sanctions are lifted or not lifted, they have performed like ANC for the past 40 years in Zimbabwe. So what difference is going to be there, because the same leadership is still there?
Hi, John.
John, yeah.
Yeah, most of us, we are going to be broke because now they took the casinos and bring them in our homes through the cell phones. Because of now, we can gamble even if we are at home. And I'm worried about these younger ones. Because once they get into, they won't be able to go out. And this will destroy our country, our youth, and everyone. I wish the government can do something so that this thing of the casinos on the phones can be regulated. This is Jacob in Mokopane.
I think it is very regulated, but that's a good conversation to have. Because in the old days, dark old days, what was it? You have to drive 2 hours from Joburg to be able to go gamble. Where was it? At those, in the old homelands. Then you still have to be able to drive to a casino. Now, as you say, it's on your cell phone. And I don't want to say I was caught in it, but there was a point where it was just so easy to sit on my phone and it was live sports. And I always think that I know about my live sports. And you get in there, you put another $100. Come on, you can make it. We could discuss that for a little while. That's a good topic to talk about. We'll talk about that later on.
Jon Gericke on SAFM.
All right, according to Statistics South Africa, the country's economy grew by 0.1% in the fourth quarter of last year. Country's marginally avoided a technical recession. Should we be optimistic about the state of economy, given the fact that it's growing so slow and too slow to create more jobs? Dr. Azad Jamin is the Director and Chief Economist at Econometrics. Doctor, thank you very much for joining us. Reading these numbers, I was saying earlier that there's some positives. It's just 5 or 6 things that are bringing us down by quite a lot.
It's, whoopee twang, we managed to get with 0.1% growth. So, yes, we escaped a recession. But really, we're talking about a stagnant economy, one that is hardly growing. There was very little to be terribly excited about with these latest figures. The one area that I had been hoping would see a little bit of a revival again in line with what we have seen in the last 2 years is but it contracted again, not as sharply as in the third quarter, but it contracted again. Consumer spending picked up by 0.2% after contracting by 0.2% in the third quarter. But, we're really talking about neither here nor there. These are very small changes. Disappointment with agricultural output also falling. Construction activity also very negative. The best that can be said is that we didn't see a contraction. In many ways, that's something that South Africans need to ask themselves if they want to be a little more optimistic. Why is the country not collapsing in the face of load shedding, problems at ports, inefficient municipal government, and maybe it's the best way the most encouraging way to look at it. Despite all these things, we're still managing to eke out marginal growth. Yeah,
So I love the fact that there were fewer days of load shedding in the fourth quarter, 63 days compared to the 91 days of the third quarter. So we're taking little bits of celebration where we can, though, Doc.
Yes, we are, and there are signs. There was a little bit of an improvement in manufacturing and mining, and that was attributable probably to the reduced intensity in load shedding and the increased amount of activity at our ports, which is still very poor, but at least it was better than what we had seen before. And that's the kind of the only solace that we can draw at the moment. And the fact that, as I say, we could have seen this economy collapsing completely, and that's not happening. We're still managing to eke out, albeit marginal. I mean, there was nothing less that you can't get less than 0.1% on the positive side. Yeah.
The economists will say, I forget the word you used, whoop-de-doo, 0.1% increase. What kind of increases or percentage growth do we need for us to create more jobs and to have a more viable economy?
This is a fraught question. Theoretically, you need economic growth of at least 3% to supply enough opportunity to employ all the school leavers to prevent the unemployment rate from rising. And you need probably 5 or 6% growth to start seeing meaningful reduction in unemployment. The irony is that actually for the last 4 years we've seen a reduction in unemployment, and in the fourth quarter of this year we saw an increase of 4.6% in formal sector jobs. So there isn't a one-to-one relationship between economic growth and employment creation at the moment. The employment picture has actually been looking a lot better. It's funny that the media haven't been highlighting this, but the employment picture has been looking a lot better in recent quarters than it did prior to that. And it's almost as if there's been a bit of a catch-up from the desperate days of COVID when people were being laid off left, right and center, and businesses realizing now that the economy is not completely collapsing, that if they're going to stay in business, they might as well, they're going to need to employ more workers. And so we've had this recent outperformance of employment relative to economic growth. But yes, quite rightly, that's a short phenomenon. One doesn't know how long that will carry on. And theoretically, we need economic growth of more like 5 or 6% to really make a meaningful dent to employment. But then we also need to fix our educational system to lend itself to reduced unemployment and greater employment to alleviate the situation.
Anyone with a bond or a car loan wants to know, will this affect interest rates?
Look, the outlook for interest rates is relatively positive. I think there's no way we're going to have an increase in interest rates. But tonight we're seeing a hike in fuel prices, and it's just that kind of thing that's going to scupper the ability to reduce interest rates anytime soon. One remains hopeful that by the latter part of this year we may start seeing a little bit of a reduction in interest rates. But certainly for the moment we're looking at interest rates remaining where they are for the next 6 months or so.
What was the word you used for the 0.1% increase?
Well, you can't get anything less positive.
Anything less positive. That's the least positive, but at least it's a positive, Doc.
That's correct. That's the best way to look at it and try and console oneself. Yeah.
Dr. Azar Jamin, thank you very much. Director and Chief Economist at Econometrics.
#SAFMBTH.
A couple more voice notes on 0614 104 107. Let's start at the bottom there.
Good afternoon, John. John, those sanctions in Zimbabwe. Sanctions or no sanctions, this is Africa, Baba. We're going nowhere. Nowhere. That's where we're going. You are doomed to these leaders, corrupt leaders. South Africa has no sanctions. Where are we? Where are we without sanctions? These are African leaders, Baba. They failed us. They failed us. We prefer colonialists better than these leaders now. We must free ourselves from their colonial, these so-called freedom fighters, anonymous.
Afternoon, John. I hope you're well. Listen, I am, happy to hear that the sanctions have been lifted. But at the same time, these sanctions have done the damage already, They have crippled our economy. They have destroyed lives. They've killed people. There's a lot that has happened in Zimbabwe because of sanctions. We've been under attack for 2 decades. So there isn't really much to celebrate, but we are happy to hear that they've been lifted. Peter from Cape Town.
Okay, Peter, we'll take more voice notes later on. 0614 104 107. You can also give us a call. 086 000 2032.
You are listening to Jon Gericke on SAFM.
5 to 4. Earlier today, the Electoral Commission launched its annual National Civic and Democracy Education Tertiary Institutions campaign, aimed at improving youth's understanding and participation in the country's democratic and electoral process. Let's talk to Moagisi Sabanda, the General Manager for Civic Education and Research at the IEC. Really low numbers in those 2021 municipal elections from the youth, Moagisi. How are you going to change their mind?
Good afternoon, John, and good afternoon to the SFM listeners. This is the very reason why we make a big effort to ensure that we target the young people through the programs such as the Tertiary Institutions campaign, where we travel to different campuses around the country, universities, colleges, and TVETs to educate young people about what participation means in democracy. We do know that there's so many young people in the country, and we need to make sure they're engaged and participating in democracy.
How do you make young people excited about that?
We try and speak in their language, John. We come out to their campuses. It really makes a difference when you go to people where they are, especially when you come to rural outlying areas such as, Mopani TZ College, where, many people might not come, but we as the IEC, so it's very important to come and speak to these young people. And a lot of them who attended today's event, over 3,000 or so, were registered. We ensured that they were checking their registration status to really also get an idea that these young people are registered and will be participating in the upcoming elections. We do multimedia campaigns. We do content that is specifically targeted at young people, in audio files and animations. We do social media toolkits that we try and distill this electoral language to a language that young people can understand and see themselves in.
Are you not talking to the converted when you're asking people to come to an event? Surely you should be on TikTok or wherever the kids are on the social medias these days.
Well, we're there. We're on all social media platforms, right, John. But face-to-face still remains a very important part of our civic and democracy education, because it's where you really get to unpack. We're not making announcements when we do civic education. We need to be talking and have people talking back to us so that we see that they're able to understand what their role is in democracy, what these elections are going to look like. Do they understand the inclusion of independence? Do they understand the 3 ballots that are coming up? And all of those things, do they understand that you need to be registered in order to vote and how to check? Do they understand that this election, you have to vote where you are registered? And those things are very, very important to unpack in events and engagements such as this one.
What are they telling you in reply?
Well, I think what we usually get, and as we got today, you get students who are saying, I am registered, I am going to vote, but what will it matter? I don't know who to vote for, or, I don't trust, all the various people who are saying I must vote for them. And our research has already prepared us for that kind of feedback, because it is what South Africans are saying. The issue of distrust in public officials, in government, in political parties. And we give that feedback to the political parties directly as well through our party liaison committees, so that they also know what they're dealing with, and they know the truth of what is discouraging South Africans from participating in their democratic rights.
Yeah, there is that worry that the IEC might not be as independent as one thinks they might be. Is that one of the fears that's come up as well?
John, the IEC is a very independent institution. It's set up to be independent and to manage elections. You do hear some of these misconceptions, but all of those are really they're just perceptions that are not true and can be proven factually, because South African elections are extremely secure, John, and South Africans can rest assured that there is no funny business that takes place in South African elections. They are very transparent. They are open to the public, to the media, to political parties themselves. And as I said, we give feedback and share research with political parties because we do have those party liaison committees. So we work closely with them in that all of us have a stake in ensuring the democracy thrives. We give them the research that we do so that they know what South Africans expect of them, and we trust that they will use the information really for the better of serving the country.
Quickly, Moagisi, you're in Limpopo today. Are you going to go to other campuses soon?
Absolutely. We actually started in January chasing, obviously, registration before it closes, but we are going to all campuses around the country up until September to go and engage young people, because whether there's an election or not, John, civic education must continue so that citizens are always participating in between elections and even when elections come.
Moagisi Sibanda, thank you very much. General Manager for Civic Education and Research at the IEC brings us to 4 o'clock, and Musa has your news.
Independent and impartial. This is SAFM News.
In our top stories, a call on powerful nations to ensure humanitarian aid in Gaza, and Google's revenue generation in the spotlight. Good afternoon. International Relations Minister Naledi Pandor has called on the powerful nations such as the United States of America to use their power to ensure that humanitarian aid is delivered in Gaza. The United Nations says the situation is dire and many children are going to die from hunger if aid is not delivered. The minister was hosting her Danish counterpart Lars Løkke Rasmussen in Pretoria, where the issue was discussed.
Those powerful armed forces of the world should be instructed by their presidents or prime ministers that they will go to the Rafah border and their soldiers will escort all those trucks into Gaza and the West Bank. And since these are very close friends of Israel, surely they will be allowed safe passage. I can't imagine them being fired upon by the Israeli forces.
Meanwhile, Løkke Rasmussen says there must be a ceasefire in Gaza. Media 24 editorial director Charlene Rolls says Google undermines revenue generation in advertising and subscriptions at Media 24. Rolls says this is due to Google dominating the entire advertising industry on the internet. She further says that with the introduction of artificial intelligence by Google, media companies are headed for an ultimate downfall. This comes as the New York Times in the US takes Google to court over alleged unfair compensation for its content shared on the search platform. Rolls was presenting before the Competition Commission's public hearings in Pretoria.
Google is now standard being accused of stealing content from publishers, and with SGE and Gemini, it's likely to just get much worse. So the Wall Street Journal reported that publishers will lose between 20 and 40% of website traffic when Google AI rolls out widely.
The Gauteng provincial budget includes 1.7 billion rand that will be allocated to the Department of Economic Development in the 2024-2025 financial year to address unemployment in the province. MEC for Finance in Gauteng, Jacob Mamabolo, says he has short, medium and long-term solutions to creating jobs for the Gauteng economy. This includes special economic zones to attract investment, the continuation of the Spani mass recruitment program and a partnership with TVET colleges.
We need to enhance skills, particularly
industry skills, ready to work. So this partnership with the TVET colleges, with CETAs and the province of Gauteng is going to help us address unemployment in the medium term. Short term, we're creating jobs. Medium term, we're going on a major skills revolution.
And finally, the Mpumalanga MEC for Education, Bonakele Majuba, has hailed the 3 teachers who were killed in a crash last week for their contribution in the maths and science stream in the teaching fraternity. Majuba and other education officials were attending the memorial service in Matsulu in Mpumalanga. Surprise Nkosi, Blessing SABC and Nicholas Toga died in a car crash last week while returning from a Maths, Science and Technology Academy training session. The MEC.
What is most concerning is that they were teaching maths and science, and those are scarce subjects, and they were producing very good results because some of the learners in the previous years, they got 100% pass rate for those subjects, and they were quite saddened by us having to lose them. We want to pledge our condolences to their families, to the schools, to the community, to everybody who's affected by this tragic event.
Recapping the top story, the International Relations Minister Naledi Pandor has called on the powerful nations such as the United States of America to use their power to ensure humanitarian aid is delivered in Gaza. For SAFM News, I'm Anne Musa.
And coming up in your sports, the Sao Colby suffers injury scare and White Boy confirms her move to Botswana. This is ahead of Paris 2024. I'll have more details at 4:30.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
And a very good afternoon. In a rerun of yesterday, we're looking at some delays affecting motorists driving from Pretoria down to OR Tambo International Airport for flight connections. Same deal, the roadworks, multiple lanes are closed just south of Olifantsfontein Road on the R21, so it's quite heavy through Clayville on your way into the work zone at Tembisa. Collision scene on Joburg's Mike 1 North at Grayston Drive. Traffic very slow on the run through from the Houghton and Parktown area today. Breakdown coming out of Pretoria on the M1 South at Rigel. That's slow from Atterbury. Crash right in the heart of Irene on Main and Nell Napier, so delays on all approaches into that one. Leaving Pietermaritzburg, a breakdown still with us near Linfield Park. That's on your way to Durban, resulting in a pushback right through to Ashburton and looking quite heavy indeed. And if you're driving out of Cape Town today, the N1's already busy out of the Kuiper. Get a change at Nelson Mandela Boulevard, already backlogging from around about Searle Street, just out of the CBD. You pick up that queue. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
Beyond the Headline on SAFM, weekdays 3 to 6 p.m. Jon Gericke on SAFM.
7 minutes past 4, John in for Eldrin today. We'll be back again tomorrow. Lucky to be along with you on a Tuesday. Toomey and I, there was a naughty headline in Formula One news. The Formula One has a lot of naughty headlines. I'll tell Toomey about that later on. She's also got a headline to talk about. Also coming up, the Chris Hani Baragwanath Academic Hospital has partnered with the Ronald McDonald House Charities, providing critical maternal and children's health services to the communities. I love it. Good news story. And the bad news story, there might be a national bus strike, as there's a deadlock between employers and trade unions in the bus passenger sector. That's going to be the Easter weekend is looming. How far is that away? It's the end of the month, right? So 20 days away. The unions say they have come down to 8% increase, please, across the board. They were asking for many, many more percentages, but we'll find out from the National Union of Metalworkers of South Africa what their demands are. Now, though, let's talk about environmental issues. Environmental activist organizations held a protest at the opening day of the Africa Energy Indaba in Cape Town, aimed to challenge executives attending the Indaba from the use of gas as a transitionary fuel. We'll find out about that and more in a bit.
Third placed VfB Stuttgart understand that only victory will get them close to the top 2 teams on the table, whereas Union Berlin have a mammoth task to cause an upset away from home. Who will dictate terms at the MHP Arena? This is the Bundesliga, football as it's meant to be. Experience the German style of the game. VfB Stuttgart FC versus FC Union Berlin on Friday, 8 March at 9:30 p.m. Live on SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4. Also available on SABC Plus and SABCSport.com. Hashtag We Love You. Brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
The Northwest, the Provincial Legislature Portfolio Committee on Economic Development, Environment, Tourism, Agriculture and Rural Development will conduct public hearings on the 6th of March on Climate Change Bill and Public Procurement Bill at Zirasta Municipal Hall, Naka Mudrimulema, Potchefstroom Banquet Hall, Dr. Kenneth Kaunda, Khanyisa Auditorium Hall, Dr. Ruth Sohomozi Mompati, and Mabudisa Community Hall in Muruleng, Buchanala District. All hearings start at 10 o'clock.
Like what you hear? Enjoy more of your favorite SABC content on the SABC Plus app today. The SABC Plus app brings you all of SABC content from radio to TV on one platform. You can also stream some of the biggest sport matches whenever and wherever you are, courtesy of the SABC Plus app. Simply download the app on your chosen app store or register on www.sabc-plus.com. And start binging today. SABC Plus, the home.
You are listening to Jon Gericke on SAFM.
All right, let's find out more about these environmental activists. They are trying to stop the use of gas as a transitionary fuel, highlighting some of the concerns they have with the environmental and economic implications. In recent weeks, there have also been reports surrounding the limited supply of industrial gas beyond 26. There have been questions surrounding the long-term reliability of the energy source. Let's find out more about those concerns with Lisa Makula, Advocacy Officer at the Green Connection. Lisa, good afternoon to you. What's your issues with gas? Isn't it cleaner and better for the environment than coal?
Hi, John. Thank you for having me today. I must say that today was a bit of an action outside CTICC, and we are a bit disappointed that gas is part of the agenda, basically, for those conversations around energy issues. And particularly because gas is promoted as climate-friendly, and there has been reports that have actually been released that actually prove that gas is 82 times more impactful than carbon dioxide, particularly on methane emissions that it releases. So that is where our concern is, and the fact that obviously it won't be climate-friendly for the environment if it has more impacts to vulnerable communities.
Well, you say 82%. What do you mean? It's 82% more dangerous. It creates 82% more global warming than carbon dioxide.
Yes.
All right. So, the gas is burned. It's not going to be out in the environment.
Well, it will have the impact on the environment because, remember, it releases methane emissions. So those methane emissions will then obviously lead to climate issues. And I think South Africa has experienced quite of those issues in recent years and months. That is, if we look at the KZN, it has really experienced the floods just in the past few months, as well as Johannesburg and Eastern Cape experiencing drought. So I think South Africa is already experiencing effects of climate change. So our concern is, why are we still investing in new fossil fuel projects if we are also trying to curb the climate crisis? Because at the State of the Nation address, I think the President did announce that there was going to be a climate response fund, which is actually very good, and we welcomed that very well. But at the same time, we are worried about the pieces of legislation that are pushing for more fossil fuels.
What's the solution then instead of fossil fuels?
So basically what we want is to see government implement an integrated energy plan that will take into recognition various sectors in the country, and that will ensure that the investments of the country are going into places that are going to be economically viable and sustainable.
All right, using big words. What's the alternative to fossil fuels?
The alternative, basically, that we hope government actually looks into just implementing more of it, is just investing in communities that are already there, that is solar. And we know that South Africa is very rich in wind and the sun. So those are the resources that could actually be used to just bring in more of those projects to just try to curb our energy issues, and so that we can also be able to transition to our net zero pathway.
Okay, so the short answer to my question, you want solar and wind to supply electricity and no coal and no gas?
So basically, it's no new investment in fossil fuels because there's no need for that. The report has reports have highlighted that, particularly the International Energy Agency has highlighted that there is no need for countries to invest in new oil and gas investments.
I see. Again, you're not really answering my question here, and I need help, Lisa. I'm trying to help you. So you're saying solar and wind instead of gas and coal? Yes or no?
Yes.
Okay. What happens when the sun goes down and the wind stops blowing?
I mean, there's storages for all of those things. Mm-hmm. So it could be stored, energy could be stored. There could be other alternatives as well, instead of trying to invest in something that would create more problems while vulnerable communities are actually already experiencing issues.
Okay, it takes a lot of energy to make a solar farm, and it takes a lot of energy to make wind turbines. Wind turbines break; they have to be put down. They have to be buried somewhere. I guess. What is it? Carbon fiber or whatever it might be. Is it more environmentally friendly to do green energy than it does the current fossil fuels?
I think what's more important is that to note is that we can't deny that South Africa is already experiencing issues, and I'm not going to say that obviously South Africa needs to just quickly switch off from the use of coal and other energy alternatives. But what is more important is that we should not be putting in money on investments that are still causing the problems. So we should be investing in projects that are going to be sustainable and ensure that we end the current crisis, but at the same time protect those vulnerable communities.
You see, again, you didn't really answer my question. Is the alternatives that you're suggesting, wind turbines and solar, are they more environmentally friendly than coal and gas? And I give you the reasons again. It takes a lot of energy to make them. Nothing grows under a solar farm. Wind turbines are huge. They have the effect on the birds. We know this. When they break and they have to be destroyed of somehow. Are they more environmentally friendly?
Yes, they are more environmentally friendly compared to coal and the use of oil and gas. Because also, when you compare like the number of emissions that coal power plants as well as oil and gas projects actually produce, I think that's where more consequences of climate change come in. So that is why we're actually advocating that our government should actually have this plan that will take into account various sectors to try curb the issues.
Okay, let's go back to, it's always called a base load, right? There's a base load of energy that is needed for manufacturing. You can't have big wind gusts. You can't have a cloudy day or a cloudy week. Sometimes in Johannesburg we have no sun for a week. It's under the clouds. How do we balance the quick supply of current green electricity creations and the fossil fuels that are supplying that base load?
So I think with this question, as I mentioned earlier, it's important, which you said it was a big word, the integrated energy plan. So what is that integrated energy plan? So it is an energy plan that takes into account all the sectors that are currently available in the country.
And some of that is gas.
Sorry?
And some of that is gas.
No, it just takes into account the transport industry, the transport industry and the education sector and all other sectors that actually impact the economy. So that plan is supposed to make sure that all the investments when it comes to the energy, they are actually sustainable and they're also going to the right places and they will benefit every ordinary South African. And then what you are talking about, it comes into another plan that is called the electricity plan. So that is where you actually find government plans for the electricity supply of South Africa in terms of the demand and supply. So that's where it actually comes in.
Right, I'm still confused. What about the fact that first world countries, and I use that word in brackets, have made a lot of money by selling oil and selling coal and selling gas? We have now, if we find all this beautiful gas that we can sell off to the rest of the world, isn't that a good thing for our economy?
What's actually worrying about that is the fact that, okay, there is going to be extraction of gas but then what is going to happen to the environment once the extraction has been done? And also, who is that going to benefit? And I've just highlighted that gas is 82 times more impactful than carbon dioxide. Obviously, the vulnerable communities are going to be impacted when there's actually effects of climate change. So it goes back to actually the argument that I gave you earlier, that gas is seen to be more potent than carbon dioxide, and it has more impact to communities compared to carbon dioxide. So that's why we actually against it.
Okay, so there's a line between health and loss of life from the damages caused by greenhouse gases, one of them being gas, and the economy. And the economy can't outweigh that loss of life and health. Yes?
Can you repeat the question, please?
So there's a balance between making money for the country and the health of that country, right? So you're saying, obviously give much more credit to the health and lives of people than making money and getting those people employed.
Not necessarily. What we actually want is to see a proper plan to transition away from fossil fuels, because I think we've seen a lot of impacts, and we're not just saying that we should be promoting livelihoods and the economy should be crippling. Everything should happen all sustainably, and lives of people should not be compromised. When it comes to making sure that the economy is also viable. So there should be balance between profits and also making sure that the lives of people are not compromised. So we're not saying there should not be development, but we want development to be done in a sustainable manner.
You had this protest today. Let's wrap it up, Lisa. You had this protest today. Were you successful, do you feel?
Sorry?
You had this protest today. Were you successful?
We had the protest, but I think what's more important is to actually hear our demands being taken into consideration. So it would really be great to just hear the Minister acknowledge some of those demands, particularly the ones that we had about gas should not be part of actually the just transition, and it's not climate friendly. So just to have that dialogue, it would really be important so that we could also just get a chance to voice out our concerns about what is currently happening in the country.
Lisa Makula, thank you very much. Advocacy Officer at the Green Connection.
Mzansi's top spinners are back on the ground for a tire-screeching battle.
Here we go. You ready for some fun?
Stay glued to SABC TV channels on 16 March 2024 for a breathtaking experience of Red Bull Shine Motor.
Precision driving at its very best out there. This is Africa. Welcome to a world of spinning.
Do not miss out on the heated spinning by the greats of the sport. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport. For the love of the game.
There are new and exciting moves for the SABC2 Familia. From the 4th of March, the life-changing game show Deal or No Deal with Katlego Maboe officially moves to SABC2 weekdays at 6:30 p.m. It's where you belong.
Jon Gericke on SAFM.
Where are we going? David in Uppington. Let me push this button over here. David in Uppington is on hold now. He's not. Hello, David.
Hi, John. How are you?
Liquor, go ahead.
Okay, John, I wanted to speak to the question of transformation. Look, I'm in this small town called Uppington.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm telling you, transformation in terms of education, it's a big struggle. Reason for that, John, what is currently happening is that the historic disadvantaged people are still the ones that are actually found wanting within the educational system in terms of getting their kids being placed in schools and what. And I think, John, the frustration is that of which I've interacted with a number of other parents with regard to that, because they felt that there's not much done by the department in terms of addressing the issue of transformation, because we're having schools whereby you still have to fork out a lot of money to get your kids to that schools, whilst you yourself is struggling as a parent too, because the majority of the schools in the townships are overfull. They are actually, there's no space. But you find that the schools whereby it's historically white schools, they are still maintained, the teacher score is still maintained at the schools.
So, how many new schools have been built in your neighborhood in the last 30 years?
John, honestly speaking, I can tell you where I'm staying actually in Pabalelo. I think the schools that were built there, it's only one.
One new school in the 30 years. You see, the reason I ask is, in my neighborhood, there have been no primary schools built since 1982, government primary schools since 1982 in my hood. So to me, it's an infrastructure issue, right? They just aren't building enough schools to supply for as you say, the previously disadvantaged. Those as you say, previously white schools, do they have space? Are there 30 kids in a class as opposed to 50 kids in a class?
Yeah, that's what is happening there.
Right.
They keep to the numbers.
Okay.
They keep to the numbers, and of which, John, the problem is that we're only having one high school in where I'm staying in Pabalelo. And then we're having 3 primary schools there. It means that high school can't actually cope with the number of kids that are actually produced from primary to translate to secondary school.
Okay, so and then kids have to travel very, very far to be able to get anywhere because there's no schools nearby.
They have to travel, say, 5 to 10 k's to get to the nearest school.
Yeah. All right, David, it's an ongoing story. We'll see if we can get hold of the Department of Education. It's Uppington specifically. Are there more areas that you know of, or are you just speaking about your area?
I'm speaking about my area because,
I'm sure it's a bigger issue across the country as well. But we'll look into it. Thank you very much, David in Uppington. Lack of schools and people having to travel very far. We hear about it every year, don't we? Let's go to Mvusi Sekaya, also an education. Mvusi Sekaya, hi.
Yes, good one. How are you?
Mvusi, say it again. Mvusi Sekaya.
Yes.
What does that mean?
Yes. You're going to need 30 minutes for that name.
All right. Tell us about GDP and Zimbabwe sanctions.
Look, I'm happy that our economy is growing. And it shows 3 things for me. The economic recovery that the president has been talking about is taking shape.
Hold on.
Number 2.
Before you carry on, is it really growing 0.1%? Can you call that growth?
It is growth, because if it was not growing, it would be negative, and it would be 0. There is growth, there is movement, there's a decline in some of the key sectors of the economy, and largely we know what contributes, or partly we know what contributes to that decline.
Okay, so your point?
So the interventions that are being made to address load shedding, which all of us hate, I think they are helping us. And they need, those that are responsible for it, need to move with the speed of light so that we don't have this problem. Because the economy, part of what the economy needs is an investment by private sector, by financiers, in job creation, business ideas, partly of young people and of other entrepreneurs. I wouldn't really want us to see an increase in money that goes to political party donations and less money going to entrepreneurs and funding startups. The growth, the decision by the U.S. to lift the sanctions of Zimbabwe, I think it's welcome, and I hope that it's going to help Zimbabweans address the problems that they are facing. The point that President Mbeki has been making, that the problems of Zimbabwe need people of Zimbabwe to resolve, it's very important because they are the ones that need to sit down and resolve these problems. So the last point that I want to make is that this economy will grow when we elect the ANC into office again, because that manifesto will realize growth, and it needs all of us to make it a reality, particularly those that have got financial resources to invest in the economy.
But every political party is saying that. Every political party is saying we're going to increase jobs, we're going to increase the economy, we're going to reduce crime.
They do, but in the 30 years that the ANC has been in power, you've seen massive investments in special industrial zones, special economic zones, in Port Elizabeth, in Kucha, in East London, and Kucha has actually helped the Western Cape and Gauteng government establish their own economic zones.
You can't get any goods there because the trains aren't working.
The difference between you don't only use trains to transport stuff.
Oh, you got all the trucks.
You use trucks also.
Yeah.
So that's
the
part of
roads. The roads have potholes because of all the trucks.
It's not only the trucks that make us to have potholes.
Yeah.
Some of the problems that are there, you need transport engineers to tell you what makes us to have potholes on all our roads. It can't be assumed that you're using trucks, because when they design these roads, they design them to be able to be capable of allowing trucks to use the roads. They're not designed for these small cars.
So many trucks. They're not designed for so many trucks because the railway lines don't.
There is no engineer that design roads without
so many trucks
in mind.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
You can go to any road engineer, they will tell you. But this is not to say, John, we don't need our rail to be up and to perform properly. We need our rail to be strong, and when it is there, government needs to make sure that rail infrastructure is protected from vandals.
Yes.
Because those vandals are not doing our economy any good.
Correct.
They are not doing the unemployed people any good. They're destroying our future.
Vusi Wagaya in the Eastern Cape, thank you very much, is happy about the fact that the USA has stopped their sanctions on most of Zimbabwe, the majority of Zimbabwe. What is it, 95% or so? You're with SAFM, John in for Eldrin. Coming up, traffic with Rob, and we will have sport with Tumi as well. A little good news story coming out of Chris Hani Baragwanath Academic Hospital. First, let's get the latest news headlines with Anne at 4:30.
Thanks, John. Good afternoon. In the headlines, Labour Union NUMSA says they are on the verge of a national bus strike after deadlock with employers during wage talks this week. NUMSA says they have been negotiating with the South African Bus Employers Association and the Commuters Bus Employers Association for employees' primary health care and an increase in allowances. International Relations Minister Naledi Pandor has called on the powerful nations such as the United States of America to use their power to ensure humanitarian aid is delivered in Gaza. And Ukraine says it has attacked and destroyed a Russian patrol ship using its naval drones in the Black Sea. Greg House will have details on these and other stories at 5. For SAFM News, I'm Anne Musa.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
And a rerun of yesterday for motorists driving out of Pretoria down towards Flight Connections at the airport. It's exactly the same sort of deal. Roadworks, multiple lanes closed just after Olifantsfontein Road. Traffic parking back beyond the Clayville exit. So very heavy Clayville through to Tembisa. Exactly the same as what you went through about 24 hours ago. Make sure you got extra tyre to get through that if it's time critical. At the N1 South slow towards the William Mandela off-ramp. The Mike 1 North coming out of Joburg slow from Parktown up to a crash at Grayston Drive. And separately, Grayston Drive is quite heavy, leaving Sandton out towards the Mike 1 Highway. No change, leaving Pietermaritzburg. Traffic remains heavily backed from Ashburton down to a breakdown in the Linfield Park area. And if you're coming out of Cape Town today, the N1 looking fairly slow from the elevated freeway all the way through to the Kuberg interchange, and some backlogging on the way towards Khayelitsha. We've got some traffic queuing on the N2 outbound, just moving slowly passing the airport runway towards the R300s. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
This is SAFM Sports with Tumi Khapele.
In your sports this hour, let's start things off with the rugby. Chelson Colby could be said to spend a month on the sidelines after suffering an injury during his stint with Japan's Centauri St. Goliath. Colby missed Sunday's victory, while the rest of the World Cup winning Springboks were in action in Japan's League One last weekend. He reportedly suffered a hand injury, which could keep him out for anywhere between 4 to 6 weeks. In football, there's some DStv Premiership action today. Kaizer Chiefs will be desperate for a win when they take on Golden Arrows at the FNB Stadium. Amakosi stretched their winless run to 4 matches across all competitions when they drew goalless with Morocco Swallows. Now, the Glamour Boys remain 6th in the DStv Premiership standings, 3 points behind 4th placed Orlando Pirates, and a victory over Arrows would see Amakosi boost their ambitions of securing a top 3 finish. Meanwhile, Arrows are also enduring a 10-match winless run across all competitions, and they're sitting 10th, 6 points point behind Chiefs, and a win will boost their hopes of securing a top 8 finish. It's not the only fixture of the day. AmaZulu will take on Morocco Swallows, and then there's a Cape Derby between Cape Town City and Stellenbosch FC, with kickoff for all matches at 7:30. Meanwhile, Cape Town Spurs coach Ernest Merendorp believes that 20-year-old Liam Byrne will be a key player in the club's fight to retain their DStv Premiership status. The midfielder produced a man-of-the-match performance in their 2-0 win over TS Galaxy at the weekend, standing out in what was the Urban Warriors' 3rd win of the season so far, as they battled to stay up, and Merendorp raved about the youngster who's already played 12 matches.
Liam is, I don't know, is he 20, 21? Azaneda, I don't know, is he 20, 22? Our captain, I don't know, is he 22 or 23? I have no idea. We can go through. I think Siviva is he 19 or 20? I have no idea. Actually, I don't ask the age. I think it's important to see what these guys can contribute.
Well, then finally, South African judo athlete Mikhala Whiteboy has officially relocated to Gaborone in Botswana as she takes her career to the next level. The 28-year-old is already guaranteed a spot at the Olympic Games in Paris later this year because of her ranking in the continent. But she stated that she wants to achieve qualification outright in the next few months that remain. Here she is explaining her decision to move.
It was already in my head for a while to move because I felt like I was getting stuck. I was like at that place where I needed to move. And then I had the situation of where I could do the coaching with the Cameroonian. It was basically me training with the Cameroon coach in Botswana. So basically I was already training with him. It's just that he couldn't sit in my chair.
Well, with that said, it is a wrap from my side. I'll have more in the next hour for SAFM Sport. I'm Dumin Kapele.
Economic news on SAFM. Facts and figures you can count on.
Makwe Masalela is Chief Investment Officer at Makwe Fund Managers. Afternoon to you, Makwe. We're going to get back to Makwe in a minute. We seem to have lost his phone. Tumi, before you go, I know that we were talking earlier about naughty headlines. Formula One famous for naughty headlines, right? Yes. So I browse through the Twitters, X and Facebook and things, and I see a headline. It says, Verstappen to miss Saudi Grand Prix, which is this weekend. I'm thinking, what? No!
Max Verstappen.
I'm a Max Verstappen fan. Why is he missing? Is it the Horner incident? Is he sick? What's going on? It's his father, Jos Verstappen.
That's journalism for
who's
you.
not going to be at the Saudi Grand Prix. And I'm like, okay. Yeah?
Journalism for you.
It's like, I don't know, it's like John's dad isn't going to be at the radio station today. I was like, no.
So you're a Max fan or Ripple?
Max fan.
So wherever he goes, you go.
Yeah, well, he's not. I was going to say I've got to go to Makwe. I've got to go to Makwe in a minute. I'm a Max fan. He won't go anywhere. Although he might go to Mercedes, but then I'm not sure. See, I just like watching the cars go around in circles for 2 hours while I sleep. Jimmy, thank you very much. But they are naughty journalism. Are we playing this thing again? We're going to play this thing again.
Economic news on SAFM. Facts and figures you can count on.
Take two, Makwe Masalela, Chief Investment Officer at Makwe Fund Managers. What's happening at ShopRite today, Makwe Masalela?
Afternoon to you, John, and to the listeners. Despite all the macroeconomic challenges, the guys extended their market share gains and continued store upgrades and also advances in the areas of fresh, private label, and on-demand execution by Checkers 6060 is paying off, and the guys added 197 new stores to a total of 3,543 stores, and regardless of the comparative high base, sales increased by 13.9%, with profits as headline earnings per share up 7.3%, dividends per share up 7.7%. John, the guys continue to win struggling shoppers because of good pricing, and the number of shoppers increased by 6.4%, and the average spend as well increased by 7.7%.
Good news there. What's happening in the schools? Kuro got their numbers out today.
Yeah. Managed to add 1,307 new learners. They're sitting at 72,031, and the learner-teacher ratio improved to 18.3 from 18.4. Revenue up 14.6%. Recurring profits as headline earnings per share up 32%, with dividend as well up 32%.
And am I going to have to learn to speak French if I'm watching satellite TV?
Probably,
really?
Because the guys today sweetened their offer to buy MultiChoice by 19%. These are the largest shareholder currently. They own almost 35%, and they increased their bid from 105 rand per share to 125 per share. And yesterday, the takeover regulation panel granted Canal Plus an extension to not later than the 8th of April to make a mandatory offer to MultiChoice shareholders. So once the offer is made, then the responsibility is for the independent board of MultiChoice to get an independent expert opinion so that they can provide their opinion and recommendation of the offer to the shareholders.
What else happening on the market today?
Market started the session by extending declines as uncertainty over the path of U.S. interest rates saw traders stepping back from the recent record highs and risk aversion before what they call the Super Tuesday, where 15 states are set to vote in the presidential election primaries, also factored into market losses, with the event expected to set a rematch between Biden and Trump, and markets were waiting for a fresh truce on interest rates path on the U.S. Chair, who will be speaking tomorrow and Thursday, and then also they expect that he will largely maintain a hawkish tilt and reiterate his stance that they will need more convincing data that inflation is nearing their annual 2% target, and our economy escaped a technical recession in Q4 as we had less load shedding, which helped energy-intensive industries, including mining, to rebound, and after contracting by 0.2% in Q3, we managed a 0.1% growth in Q4. Growth for 2023 was 0.6%, down from the 1.9% in 2022. Of concern is that household consumption, though it increased by a mere 0.2%, remember, economy is more than 60% driven by consumer demand, but we saw government spending falling by 0.3% and fixed investment declined by 0.2%. And China said their 2024 GDP growth at around 5%, same as last year. The yellow metal jumped to an all-time high, fueled by a combination of expectation of rate cuts, geopolitical tensions, and also risk of a pullback when it comes to stocks, not ruling out momentum. We see gold is up 0.7% at 2,129. Platinum is down almost 2% at 882. Oil continued to fall as traders are concerned over Chinese growth and the uncertainty over the pace of interest rate cuts. Brent crude is down 0.7% at $82. The Dow is down 0.3%, S&P down 0.4%, DAX is flat, FTSE down 0.1%, CAC just like the JSE down 0.2%, and the rand is now 18.96 to the US dollar, 24.08 to the pound, and 20.57 to the euro.
Makwe Masalela is Chief Investment Officer at Makwe Fund Managers.
The Eagles understand how crucial maximum points are as they rapidly want to climb up the ladder of the Premier League.
Jordan whips in once more. Richards at the back post! Carissa Richards has broken the deadlock at Selhurst Park!
But the Hatters know that they need something magical to escape from danger.
Forward run from Chong, deflection, Obene's header, and the Hatters lead! What a noise from the away end, the Kop end is stuck.
Experience the Premier League encounter between Crystal Palace FC and Luton Town FC on Saturday 9 March at 4 p.m. live on S3. Also available on SABC Plus and SABCsport.com. # we love it here. Brought to you by SABC Sport. For the love of the game.
Business owners, don't waste your time searching for an employee that has it all. They do not exist. But I will tell you what does exist. The Kia K2700 Workhorse. It's versatile, powerful, and reliable. It also arrives on time every day. Plus, you get 40,000 Rand cashback. It's the business partner you've been waiting for. Visit your nearest Kia dealership for a test drive. T's and C's apply.
Kia. Movement that inspires.
Are you one of the millions of South African households receiving television through DSTV, OpenView, StarSat, or streaming platforms? You will not be affected by analog switch-off. If you own an integrated digital television with an outdoor UHF aerial and live in an area that has digital terrestrial network coverage, you do not need an additional decoder to switch free-to-air television and will not be affected by analog switch-off. Visit https://www.dcdt.gov.za/DTT all-u-need-2-know/file/194-IDTV-models.html for a list of some compatible TV models on the market. Hashtag Chincha Ungasali. Hashtag Go Digital. For more info, send a WhatsApp message to 0600 625 458. Call 0860 736 832. Email support@centec.co.za. Web chat www.centec.co.za. Or Facebook Messenger @Centec Ltd.
You are listening to Jon Gericke on SAFM. Let's have the conversation. WhatsApp voice notes on 0614 104 107.
Hi, John. The issue of Zimbabwe sanction being lifted, nothing to celebrate. There's a reason behind. Why are they sanctioning the president? The issue of Russia, China, and these changes that are coming. Western are targeting that. America is not able with that. The issue is they want to target America to change the regime in Zimbabwe so that they can deal with South Africa. So people must wake awake.
Hi, this is KM from Vereniging. I just want to talk about this economy of South Africa. The issue here lies with crime. Yes, we can talk about unemployment, employment, the GDP, we name them. So much things about the terminology for the economy. But the thing that is dragging down our economy is crime, criminal activities in South Africa. And for as long we are not dealing with it decisively, we are going to find ourselves in a low rate than today. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon, John and the SFM listeners. I don't think the sanctions have really been lifted for Zimbabwe because you can't say that you're lifting sanctions on a country, but you're putting some sanctions on the leader of that country. So how will it work? Let's say, for instance, maybe Zimbabwe needs something from the US. They need some help. Who's going to go there? It has to be the president. But if the president is not able to go there, I don't think the sanctions have really been lifted. This is something that I think it's like a joke, actually.
All right, let me explain. If you want to do business within the United States, you will be allowed to. If your businesses, or you're a farmer and you want to export your tobacco to the United States, you will be allowed to, and you can sell. If you want to buy something from the United States, you will be allowed to. But if you are the person who is being sanctioned, you will not be allowed to. You will not be able to allow trade dollars. You will not be allowed to sell things. You'll not be able to move money illegally it'll be illegal. You won't be able to move money into the States, whatever that might be. Let's go, where are we going? To this one, this voice note here.
Hi, John. There's nothing like Mvusiwe Kayil taking an hour explaining his name. It means he has resurrected the home because of there was no one maybe, or he was named after someone, but he has resurrected the home.
There we go. I like that. It's a good name as well.
Good afternoon, Mr. Gericke. Good afternoon to the listeners. With regards to Lisa's comments about South Africa moving away from fossil fuels, if you look at the leaders in green economies and green energy production, countries like Germany and the United Kingdom, they do not only use green energy solutions as their energy supply. They are still reliant on fossil fuels. South Africa is a growing economy, and we are in a net energy deficit, which is why we are experiencing load shedding, and we require fossil fuel input, and it's only an augmentation based on the limitation of technology currently. Thank you. This is Ash from Durban.
And the one thing she didn't answer, and I try to get her to answer it 3 times as well, is the pollution created by green energy. And we can talk about this for a while, and I'm sure it'll come up a lot more in the future. But the chemicals used in batteries, What are they? I don't know if mercury is still used in batteries, but that is used. Lead, is that still used in batteries? The chemicals being used. So if you're making, my 2 little batteries that are collecting solar energy now and storing that, that's fine. But if you want to have gigawatts of electricity, you need huge batteries, and it can't be good for the environment when those batteries are finished. They have to go somewhere. Maybe they'll be able to be recycled. I don't know the answer, but she didn't answer that question. But yeah, this is an ongoing conversation. We'll have a lot more of that. Good news story in a sec.
Third-placed VfB Stuttgart understand that only victory will get them close to the top 2 teams on the table, whereas Union Berlin have a mammoth task to cause an upset away from home. Who will dictate terms at the MHP Arena? This is the Bundesliga, football as it's meant to be. Experience the German style of the game. VfB Stuttgart FC versus FC Union Berlin on Friday, 8 March at 9:30 p.m. Live on SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4. Also available on SABC Plus and SABCSport.com. Hashtag We Love Each Other. Brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
Get South Africa's best adventure SUV. The new Ford Everest Sport 2-liter auto bi-turbo 4x2, now from only $14,499 per month with no deposit. With 20-inch alloy wheels and black exterior accents. Get the new Ford Everest Sport at your nearest Ford dealer today. T&Cs apply.
You are listening to Jon Gericke on SFM.
10 minutes to 5, the Chris Hani Baragwanath Academic Hospitals partnered with the Ronald McDonald House Charities in providing critical maternal and children's health services to communities. The partnership's seen the launch of the first lactation facility, the reopening of family rooms within the neonatal unit in one of the nation's largest hospitals. Let's find out more about that with Zanele Mvalase, the board member of the Ronald McDonald House Charities. Zanele, thank you very much. First of all, what is the Ronald McDonald House Charities?
Hi, good afternoon, John, and good afternoon to your listeners. Yes, Ronald McDonald House Charities, also popularly known as RMHC, is an independent and non-profit organization that is largely supported by McDonald's. So its purpose is to provide support and accommodation to families who travel distances to bring their children to hospitals for medical care. And you mentioned the lactation facility, that's our latest program. But this particular, service, we do it through 2 different programs. The first one being what we call a family room. And a family room is, these are 2 lounges which are located at the neonatal unit at the Chris Hani Baragwanath Hospital. This is where the mothers who come and visit their children will rest and regroup when, during the day. And the second program is what we call a house. Although this is not a typical house because it is a high-end hotel, which is with about 27 en-suite bedrooms that is located at the Nelson Mandela Children's Hospital. So unlike the lounges at the Chris Hani Baragwanath Hospital, this facility provides accommodation for the duration of the family's stay whilst, they're looking after their children who are hospitalized.
Sure. So it's a very traumatic time when your child has to go into hospital. So a little bit of luxury for them while they're there instead of having to sit on a chair or a bench in a waiting room.
Absolutely, and that's precisely the point. So the need for both facilities, maybe starting with the hotel that is in Park Town. So typically mothers will come a distance. Some will travel from as far as Zimbabwe with very little or not money at all, but, just come here in faith, because they want to see their children healed. But in the process, they will be sleeping on the hospital benches, and some of them won't have a place to stay. In fact, we've got to learn that some parents would opt not to come at all because of the fact that they don't have the means. To accommodate themselves and to feed themselves during their time with their children in hospital. And that was purely for that purpose that we then came up with this facility that is just, a floor up from the actual hospitals, where mothers get to relax, because it's a state-of-the-art facility with a library where mothers can rest and read after a long day. It's got a meditation room. It's a facility with different lounges, a kitchen, laundry, etc. It's basically a home away from home. And again, at the Baragwanath Hospital, the whole idea is to accommodate the day mothers who travel. Some will travel from Soweto, some will travel from wherever it is in the country to come and see their children. Again, what we witnessed was mothers would be sitting on benches and outside, the hospital under trees, again with no food. But wanting to see their children as they go through the healing process. And we then created this facility not only to provide them with accommodation for the day, but also to provide them with food and some form of entertainment, such as television or books, as well as non-clinical support.
It's been a long journey with RMHC and Chris Hani Baragwanath Hospital. Are you in other hospitals as well? Obviously, this is a huge hospital.
Yes, unfortunately not at the state. So
Right.
You will recall that we only launched this, RMHC only came to the country in 2012, and we launched the first program with Baragwanath in 2013, before we launched the hotel. So it's just been a journey, with Baragwanath at this stage. However, although we've just launched the lactation facility, it doesn't mean that this is where it ends. We're actually currently looking at opportunities outside of Gauteng, because we've seen how great, these programs are, to these needy families. We've seen the benefits. I mean, we have mothers who come in as volunteers because of the impact that this program would have had in their lives. And as a result, we are exploring other areas in the country, without giving away the secret at this point in time, because it's still in the process.
Nobody's listening, Zanella. It's just you and me. I won't tell anybody, I promise.
Perfect. I still can't share,
Yeah.
I want in good time, I'll come back and celebrate with you and your listeners.
I want to talk about the lactation room. It has been, and I've spoken to a few mothers about this, where the nurses are so busy. Newborn baby, they try to get the baby to latch for the first time. It's a very new experience for both mother and baby, obviously. And the pressure to get that baby to latch doesn't work. Just give them a bottle, it's all over. This is going to change that a little bit, having a little bit more time, a little bit more patience.
So, in fact, as we were launching the program last week, one of the head doctors of the neonatal hospital said that, breast milk is what they promote over the bottle, because some of these children who are unfortunately born with medical conditions require more than just, a milk. They require the mom's immunity. So, the lactation facility is actually playing a much bigger role in that aspect. So what we have done, not only does our facility have all the resources that the mothers require for them to express the milk for their babies, but we also have dedicated nurses who are well experienced in the lactation field, who are there exactly for that reason, to assist first-time mothers who might be struggling with expressing milk. But just overall, the environment is so beautiful. It's very warm. It's welcoming. It's healing. And not only do the mothers have just a space, but they also have very comfortable chairs where they can sit and express the milk. And we also provide them with breast pumps, for the duration, of their session.
All sounds like a great initiative. Obviously, going to continue and expand, as you said. You're going to let us know when you expand to other places.
Absolutely. So you have to invite. So this is a trick. I'm not going to share the details and wait for my next invitation to share with you and the broader audience.
Give us a clue, Zanele.
So in fact, you can send me an invitation in the next, say, 18 to 24 months.
18 to 24 months.
And then Absolutely.
It's a date. Zanele Mvelase, thank you very much. Board member of the Ronald McDonald House Charities. The numbers are Chris Hani Baragwanath Hospital is huge, but 60,000 mothers have given birth in the largest hospital, and they've opened 2 family rooms in that hospital back in 2013. They've served 26,000 families and children in those 10 years, and that doesn't even include the Children's Hospital on the side. It's a great work, a great initiative. Well done to them. What are we doing? Voice notes. Let's take this one.
Good afternoon, John. I just want to add on the situation of education. There's a school with the name of Pescoria Primary School that is one of the oldest schools in Pescoria itself. And that school is falling apart. I don't know what is happening. Why the Department of Education don't go take a look of what is happening at that school. Because that school is totally falling apart now.
John, afternoon about schools. I have this to say. I hear there's a Bella rule coming out. I don't understand our government. Our government is crazy. There are parents who are willing to homeschool their children, right? Just because, let's assume one parent doesn't take their children to school, that doesn't mean all are taking their children to school. They need to find someone to monitor those schools and of those children who are being homeschooled. But having parents homeschooling their children frees you space to have more kids in those schools, so you don't have to build too many schools. I don't understand the logic of government. It's a logic of maths. When you say in maths 1 plus box, answer equals 2, what should be in the box? You should know it must be 1. The same thing. If you minus the parents who want to homeschool their children, how much space do you have available in schools? Lots of space.
The economy of this country does not grow. The ruling party has failed to address key issues, for example, the security and the education system. If the economy was growing, we could have not be having a large unemployment rate, which is now escalating. More people are becoming unemployed, and then this issue of them saying if you are more than 35 years you cannot be employed, why can't they then give those people old age pension?
Coming up after the news at 5, the possibility of a national bus strike is looming. There's a deadlock between employers and trade unions in the bus passenger sector. We've got finance coming up with Jimmy. We've got sports and traffic. All of that after the news at 5 o'clock.
Independent and impartial. This is SAFM News.
A bus strike on the cards and a call for more humanitarian aid for Gaza. Good day to you. Metal Workers Union NUMSA says they're on the verge of a national bus strike after a deadlock with employers during wage talks this week. NUMSA says they've been negotiating with the South African Bus Employers Association and the Commuters Bus Employers Association for employees' primary health care and an increase in employee allowances. The South African Road Passenger Bargaining Council led the negotiations. NUMSA spokesperson Pakamila Klubi Majola.
So we need to remind employers that the possibility of a national shutdown remains a reality, and this is why we urge employers to put a meaningful proposal on the table so that we are not forced to embark on a national strike.
The IEC says lack of information and disillusion are the main reasons why young people don't take part in elections. The Electoral Commission revealed this during the youth outreach program near Palabora and Limpopo. The program seeks to encourage young people to take part in the elections. Some young people have expressed their optimism.
We want a political party that will create more job opportunity to each and every person as the youth. We as the youth are going to school, but at the end we are being unemployed. We are not getting any job opportunity. So I would like to advise each and every person as the youth to go and vote. The vote journey means a lot to the upcoming elections.
We need a change. We need to vote for change.
So I'm going to vote for changes, you know. We've been struggling for over 30 years more.
Disgruntled residents of Bronkhorstspruit east of Pretoria have blocked roads in the area with rocks and burning tyres. The service delivery protest is also disrupting traffic flow. The residents embarked on a protest yesterday accusing the municipality of ignoring their demands. Community member Mboniswa Dlamini says the municipality's water policies are questionable.
What the municipality was doing is that they would send water tankers while we have water in the taps, and we would be shocked as to what is happening here because we do have water. Then an hour later, we would realize that there is no longer water in the taps again, and we would see those water tankers coming in. It's like they get information from somewhere that you may now go in.
The International Relations Minister Naledi Pandor called on the powerful nations such as the US to use their power to ensure that humanitarian aid is delivered in Gaza. The United Nations says the situation is dire and many children are going to die from hunger if aid is not delivered. The minister was hosting her Danish counterpart in Pretoria, where the issue was discussed.
Those powerful armed forces of the world should be instructed by their presidents or prime ministers that they will go to the Rafah border and their soldiers will escort all those trucks into Gaza and the West Bank. And since these are very close friends of Israel, surely they will be allowed safe passage. I can't imagine them being fired upon by the Israeli forces.
Ukraine says it's attacked and destroyed a Russian patrol ship using its naval drones in the Black Sea. Russian officials have not yet commented. The BBC's Abdul Abdurrasov reports.
A video posted on social media appears to show the moment of the explosion when the ship was hit. Ukrainian drones had already attacked the Sergei Kotov corvette twice in the past, and the third attempt seems to have been successful. Kyiv's drones have been relentlessly hunting down Russian ships in the Black Sea. Last month, they destroyed a Russian landing vessel. Frequent attacks on its fleet have already forced Russia to move ships away from Crimea to the port of Novorossiysk.
The top story, NUMSA says they're on the verge of a national bus strike after a deadlock with employers during wage talks this week. That's SAFM News. I'm Greg Khos.
In your sports this hour, PSL confirmed Nedbank Cup dates, venues and kickoff times, and South Africa under-21 netball team confirmed. I'll have more on this at 5:30.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic. SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Very good afternoon. A reminder, the R21 stays very heavily backed up through the Clayville area towards Tembisa if you're on your way from Pretoria to the airport. That is a rerun of yesterday's roadworks and major backlogging going on there. Make sure you've got plenty of time to get through that. Also, if you're on your way to Irene going out of Clayville, there's a crash up at the main road junction, so quite heavy backlogs getting through there. Collision on the N1 North at Allendale, so moving through Buccleuch interchange as you begin to run through Midrand, that's heavy. And a lot of congestion around Galulis on the N3 going both directions. Northbound, there's a crash before Galulis and a crash inside Galulis on the link to the N12. So N3 backs from Heldenace. A lot of traffic avoiding that and sitting on the M2 from Cleveland down towards the refinery road exit and Germiston. And then on the southbound side, you've got the usual breakdown at Van Buren. So again, coming through from the Alex area, it's all very heavy. Still queuing out of Pietermaritzburg to Durban. A breakdown at Linfield Park, taking forever to clear. The backlog there is substantial. Right back beyond the Ashburton exit at this stage. Durban's N2, Spaghetti Junction down towards the M7 Bluff exit looking very slow. And Cape Town today, the N7 stuck in a queue through Franz Conradi, moving south towards Four Trekker Road in Goodwood. And if you're heading into Goodwood from the Salt River area, it's very busy. A lot of traffic on Four Trekker Road from Salt River Circle through Maitland, and then another queue through Kensington in towards that Goodwood area. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
Catch the Insider SA this Monday evening at 6 as 10,000 hours at the piano elevate South Africa's teenage pianist Mike Wang to the peak of music. DJ Nilofa Said turns afternoon traffic jams into the best part of your day. And para-athlete Darren Thomas wins hearts, minds and medals in Miami, USA. That's the Insider SA this Monday evening at 6. Repeat Saturday at 1 p.m. and Sunday morning at 10:30 on S3.
Mzansi's top spinners are back on the ground for a tire-screeching battle.
Here we go. You ready for some fun?
Stay glued to SABC TV channels on 16 March 2024 for a breathtaking experience of Red Bull Shine Motor.
Precision driving at its very best out here. This is Africa. Welcome to a world of spinning.
Do not miss out on the heated spinning by the greats of the sport. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport. For the love of the game.
Under the Headline on SAFM. Weekdays 3 to 6 p.m. Jon Gericke on SAFM.
It's 8 minutes past 5. John in for Eldrin. Good afternoon to you. It's Beyond the Headline on SAFM. Coming up in a moment, we'll take your calls and voice notes. Plenty in the last half hour. I love those. Now, though, let's talk about a possibility of a national bus strike that's looming, as there's a deadlock between employers and trade unions in the bus passenger sector. Core of the demands: workers would like comprehensive health benefits, an increase in allowances for second drivers, and an 8% salary increase. After talks failed yesterday, the core demands from workers, NUMSA is engaging shop stewards in the coming days to obtain a fresh mandate that will be presented to employers. If that's not resolved, commuters may find themselves stranded ahead of the Easter holidays. Let's talk to Pakimile Hlubi-Majola, the spokesperson for the National Union of Metal Workers of South Africa. Pakimile, good chatting to you again. Thanks very much. How close are you and the employers?
Good afternoon, John, and good afternoon to your listeners. Thank you so much for having me on the show. So what I can confirm is that we met with the employers yesterday as part of conciliation. As you correctly said in your intro, we are currently deadlocked. There is a possibility of a national strike. So the purpose of this conciliation is to actually try and get us to find one another. What I can say about the meeting is that a proposal was made by employers which deals with some of the core demands. One of the core demands made by the union is a demand for health care or some kind of health insurance. The other one is a demand around an increase for the allowance for the second driver. We call it the double driver. This is the driver who drives down on long distances. And in terms of how employers view it, there's an allowance that is given to this worker, and we are demanding an increase in this allowance because we feel that it is unfair that this worker doesn't even get paid for traveling down. So there is a proposal that deals with some of that. I'm not going to go into the details of that, but one of the sticking points which remains is this demand by employers where they are saying that there are two demands they're making which are problematic. The one is that they're saying that new workers will not be able to get benefits that we've negotiated as part of the main collective agreement. And this will create a situation where you have some workers who have benefits and some don't. And that for us is a problem. And the other issue that we really have a problem with is where they are threatening that whenever there are contract penalties which are imposed on them, let's say if they fail to, meet whatever demands that are made by the Gauteng government, I'm using PATCO as an example, in terms of, being on time or picking up people or whatever the contract requirements are, they're saying those penalties are going to be passed on to workers. And again, we reject that. And the reason we reject that is because these employers, they don't disclose the subsidies that they get from government. They don't disclose the contracts that they get from government. So when they want to impose penalties, they can do that arbitrarily. For all we know, they could be scamming us because they refuse to show us any documents. And we refuse to accept that as one of the conditions for us sort of finding each other in this round of wage talk.
Let's talk about the increase. That's the one that's got everybody a little bit hot under the collar. You've come down from 15 to 8%. Inflation is still only 6%. So how do you justify an 8% increase?
We justify it because of the fact that the cost of living for workers is extremely high. If you look at some of the research done by the Peter Maritzburg body, the one that actually gives annual figures on the cost of food and the food basket, the food basket right now is sitting at over 5,000 rand. Fuel prices are high, which means everything obviously goes up as a result of that. And to our credit, we have reduced the demand. And if you look at how we've settled previously in previous wage talks, we've settled at 6%. So it's not to say that necessarily 8% is what we're going to get at the end of this process. Yes, it is the demand right now. But as you yourself know, John, the purpose of negotiations is for us to compromise and find one another.
The Pietermaritzburg Economic Justice and Dignity Group is what you're talking about.
That
thing. All right.
That is that group. Yes, thank you.
I want to talk about this allowance for the double driver. I find this very confusing. It's currently 450 rand. You want to increase it to 700 bucks. That's not per trip. That's what, for the month?
Yes. It's for the month.
So
they don't get.
So what is a double driver? So are they? You can't have a driver drive for more than 2 hours or something. So you have to have two drivers in the bus.
So let's say, for example, you're driving. This would be for the long distance bus companies.
Yeah.
So they would always have two drivers. There's the one driver who drives down to Cape Town, if Cape Town is the destination, and then the other driver will drive up from Cape Town to Johannesburg. Now, before NUMSA came along and actually started organizing workers in the bus passenger sector, that driver, the second driver, they were not even paid at all for that work.
Oh.
They were not paid. The companies view them as not working because they're not behind the wheel. I don't know that is gross exploitation.
So, all right,
Our
so
members
they
had
still
to go on a strike.
They're still in uniform.
Get an allowance.
They're still in uniform. They're still under workers' hours because they're not at home and they weren't being paid. Now they're being paid 450 rand. But this, as you say, it might happen 18 times in a month. So they will be working 18 days for that 700 rand at most that you're looking for. I can't do the maths quickly in my head, but that's not very much money for a trip to pay for whatever.
Precisely.
Okay.
It's about 25 rand per trip, if you're going to calculate it, because they do on average about 18 trips, and at the current allowance, it comes to about 25 rand a trip. So it's a very, very low amount. It's almost nothing.
You can't buy a packet of chips and a Coke for that price.
Absolutely not.
Okay.
And that is because, as I said, unfortunately, the attitude of the employers in the sector is to exploit workers. They don't view you as working, even though you're not at home, it's not your leisure time, you are compelled to be there because of your work. They just refuse to pay workers for that part of the job, and that is blatantly unfair.
And how can there not be primary healthcare? What current healthcare is there for workers?
There's none.
Nothing at all?
Nothing.
What happens if they get in an accident?
They get sent to whichever public healthcare facility is nearby. And this is part of why this has been a burning issue for workers, because I'm sure you will recall, John, that there was a time when bus drivers were being shot at by taxi operators. And there was no sympathy from the employer as far as that was concerned. These workers were all just sent to whichever public healthcare facility can assist them. But there is no healthcare cover, no insurance, nothing. And which, of course, is completely unfair. This is a highly regulated sector. They are getting generous, there's a subsidy that they get from the state. So how do they justify not having any kind of medical aid or medical insurance for workers?
And quickly, just explain to me a little bit more what you mean about the newly employed workers will be treated differently.
So, in what we're saying is that we are obviously, let's assume we sign a wage agreement next week. We agree on whatever we settle on. Let's say we settle on 8% and whatever we've demanded, okay? What we've agreed to will only apply to workers who are currently employed as of the date that we sign. Any worker that joins the company after the signing of that agreement will not receive the same benefits that we have negotiated. And this is why we're saying that this is the creation of a two-tier labor system where you're going to have some workers with all, by the way, they'll all be doing the same work.
Yes.
But some are going to be getting paid more and will be getting benefits, and others will just not.
You just lay off, and then you just lay off all your old workers and you're back to square one.
Precisely, and that's a situation that we will really ensure that we try and avoid.
Okay, you see, maybe this is why I'm not a negotiator, because I think everything you're doing seems like it makes sense. What happens if the employers, the South African Road Passenger Bargaining Council, don't meet your demands, and what is the timeline?
So the South African Road Passenger Bargaining Council is actually the body that regulates this entire sector. The employers are represented by SABC, the South African Bus Employers Association, or COBIA, known as the Commuters Bus Employers Association. We really are calling on them to take our demands seriously Because if they don't, then unfortunately, on that Easter long weekend, which is the biggest weekend outside of Christmas for them in terms of revenue, they can expect disruptions because we will embark on a national strike.
So what is that? Is that all passenger buses, Patco, Metro buses, and long distance?
Absolutely, all of them. We're talking hundreds of bus companies that exist in all 9 provinces that fulfill the work of carrying, of doing public transportation. The only exception would be municipal buses. They are governed under a different regime. But if it's not municipal buses, 99% of them fall under this Passenger Bargaining Council, and it will be hugely disruptive. So we really don't want to resort to strike action. The last time we went on a strike, it was really painful, not just for commuters, but even for our members. It was a 4-week strike. We would prefer not to do that because, as you know, John, when workers go on strike, it's a no work, no pay, so they don't get paid. But we think that there is space for us to find each other, certainly on the double driver allowance. I mean, you know, they're paying 25 Rand a trip to a worker, okay? They definitely can do better than that. And we don't think that the demands we're making are unreasonable.
Bakamele Hlubi-Majola, thank you very much, spokesperson of the National Union of Metal Workers of South Africa.
Thank you.
Let's have the conversation. WhatsApp voice notes on 0614 104 107.
Okay, the voice notes first. Are we doing voice notes first? Yes.
John, good afternoon. My name is Raka Umabula and Lepalale. Kudos to you for the interview you've just had with the lady, and you've also worked hard to expose her. She does not inspire any confidence. And you see, this is the problem that I've noted over the years. I've done some work with people that are advocating for solar energy. And I remember last year during one conference, that was at the time of the BRICS Summit in South Africa, I attended a workshop where someone from the Northern Cape was complaining about the extreme heat that they are subjected to as a result of the installation of solar panels in their area, and they also cause radiation. So there is other issues that scientists can explain better. But one thing also that I find contradictory, they're saying that no to mining activities such as coal, etc. Yet the solar panels they are using are produced through mining activities, the steel, etc. So I don't know if there is some external forces that are behind this. They eye something for investment.
Afternoon, John. John, since there is nobody to be arrested from that state capture, nobody is going to be arrested. Nobody is wearing orange overalls. That money was wasted. So how do we recover that money that was used there for the state capture? I wish organizations like AfriForum was coming in. We need to recover that money that was wasted. Nobody is being arrested. We want that money back, taxpayers' money. We can build RDPs, those matchbox houses, anonymous.
Some money is being recovered. Not a lot. A little drop in the ocean when you compare, trillions to the billions that are being recovered. But it is interesting that money is being recovered because of nefarious circumstance, because it was ill-gotten gains, and it's being paid back. But then surely it's like a traffic fine, isn't it? It can't be like a traffic fine. You broke the law. You did 75 in a 60 zone. You pay your $1,500 or whatever it is, and then everything is fine. Isn't state? It's kind of what it feels like. Here's my 4 billion rand fine of money most of the money that I stole from the country. It's okay now. I don't think that's the way it should work.
Yeah, these political games are quite very, very strange. Political incorrect statements. Zim was never under any sanctions as a nation. It was the individuals who were abusing human rights, like the current president and the former president, the 5th Brigade commander, and the rest of the cohort who were abusing human rights were under sanctions. Those were personal sanctions, not sanctions on the state of Zim. I don't know why this thing is being put wrongly across.
Good
afternoon, Jon Gericke and your team behind the scene, 3 to 6 p.m. Great show always, John. It's Uncle JJ, the truck driver. One thing what this manifesto crew are not saying, we are going to steal. Soon you vote for them, for their positions. 3 months down along the line, you will hear there is scandal. Why are they not saying, we are coming, vote for us to steal?
Where are we going to? Line 1, Magdalene. Hello, Magdalene. Good afternoon to you. How's it going?
Afternoon, John and the listeners. I'm on the traffic now, but I'm standing aside.
Okay, good.
John, the thing that I want to respond to, just to intervene to your telephonic conversation with the other guy who was limelighting ANC, that he did so much and so much for us South Africans.
Mvusi Wekaya, yeah.
Yes, I tend to differ a lot. Let me tell you, I'm from apartheid into democracy.
Mm-hmm.
And my brother had to leave South Africa for the sake of bringing democracy, to contribute in bringing democracy in South Africa. But in turn, he got nothing out of that. So I'm going to say to you, what apartheid was doing is exactly what ANC did. Apartheid was building the houses, the forum houses, which they called matchboxes. ANC did the same thing. So to distribute electricity, which is now not applicable at all, is another story. I'm going to say to you, nobody should try to convince us South Africans. We are grown-ups. We've got our own experiences that we've got democracy in black and white. Yeah. But in application, we've got apartheid. Because people were working for ANC political party, not for South Africans. Where is the economy of South Africa? It's somewhere else in other countries, not in South Africa. Because the people who are benefiting are the foreign nationals, not the South Africans. That one beats me like nobody's business, because I'm a postgraduate. I've been in the location since 2015. I'm in 2005. What is the meaning of that? You get sidelined because of your brains, because of your vision, because of your mission. You are trying to contribute to bring better South Africa, but those people are not interested in the people like us, the people who are intelligent, the people who have qualifications. Malula mustn't come with the point that he's looking at the matric. It's because he's got matric maybe, but he doesn't have postgraduate. He's not a postgraduate. If he was a postgraduate, he could know what to do as a parliamentarian. Right. But up to now, he only knows as Englishman.
All right, Magdalene, thank you very much. In Bloemfontein, unhappy, saying that did she say that apartheid was better than where we currently are? It's the same, I think, is what she said. Sure. Precious in Limpopo, hi.
Hi, how are you?
I'm great, Precious. How are you?
I'm fine. I've been listening to you and trying to call for a very long time.
Well, welcome.
I'm happy that I'm through now.
Yay!
Okay, I have a problem with the narrative that is shaped by radio around the politics of the country, and let me tell you why.
Yes.
And I want to start by making a disclaimer that I'm not an ANC member, because everyone wants to reason with the progress that the sitting government has made. Is reduced to be just an ass-licking ANC apologist or member, and that to be fashionable and to look somewhat progressive in some other people's eyes, you have to bash the government. And in the process, we are failing to quantify the victories that have been made.
Okay.
We are failing to count on the great successes that a sitting government has made for the people, because the fashion is to speak against a sitting government. That's what I want to differ with the MNC.
Give us successes.
The success is that you are on radio yourself now having a show. Yeah. The freedom of speech is a success that you must know, for example, because we are here as South Africans speaking freely on radio, including on our government. The other thing, family planning pills. I'm a woman. I collect free family planning pills. I collect ARVs. I collect different treatments. I'm receiving health care. And there's now a discussion on the NHI. And I can't turn a blind eye and and say nothing has been done. Kids are going to crèche. Kids are eating in schools. You want to say nothing has been done. There are houses that people are staying that had no title deed to their head. Today they have houses. You want to say nothing has been done. Criminals are being arrested. Now, when we speak around our frustrations and the shortfall of things that is happening, it's okay and it's correct for us to lobby, pressure our government, criticize our government, but to create a picture that nothing is being done is correctly annoying, actually. It's like we want to even reach an extent where we want to praise an oppressive regime of apartheid and compare it to a sitting government that has given you the freedom to speak that apartheid did not give you. It's very unfair on these radio stations, and it goes on. And when we speak, I know people who come and say ANC, and I'm not ANC, but I hate it, the dishonesty, and that's why you see ordinary people align with the ANC. They sympathize with things that happen. Actually, these shows where people come and bash the ANC are the ones that are mobilizing for the ANC, because ordinary people know and can quantify the change in their lives, in the quality of their lives. But then you want to tell us on shows where the ANC has not done anything. Apartheid this. No, it's very wrong, guys. It's not. It's not correct.
Precious, setting the record straight. Thank you very much. Precious in Limpopo, disagreeing. It's two different callers, two different viewpoints. It's why I love doing this job. It's fantastic because it's two very different views. Coming up in a moment, we're a little bit early, which is good news, but we're a little early. Greg Host has your news headlines in a moment. Rob Byrne has your traffic. Tumi, you got more sports? Tumi says yes, with her hat on. Tumi is trending on Twitter. She's not really. On my little Twitter, she is trending because it's all about Tumi and her hat. We posted a picture. Who posted the picture of you in your hat? I don't know. How did? Oh, it was on the live stream. That's right, because we're streaming on the Twitters. You can go find us. It's even got my name.
You defeat my life, hey.
Hey, I think you look I told you look fantastic.
Thank
People
you,
went to the live stream to see what you look like.
Thank you, but you're exaggerating when you're saying I'm trending.
Well, the one guy tweeted about you.
Exactly.
It's one person. It's one more than me.
One person.
Yeah, I will put. I don't know if you do. I'm on the Twitters for my own fault, but you put something on and you think about it. You're in the shower and you come up with this idea and you work it around. You think, okay, to move that word there, and I've written this tweet in my head and I go and I type it out and I make sure the spelling is right. Yeah. Not even a like. Not even a little heart. How hard is it for my friend, my mother, to go, heart?
So you never get likes and retweets?
I get like 5 likes at the most. And that's if I really, really try very hard. But I've got like, I don't know, I got like 2,500 followers. Like, how hard is it for one of those 2,500 people
to like it, right?
Just thank you, John, for tweeting.
I mean...
the amount of effort I put into my tweets. I rarely tweet, but when I do... some effort's gone into it.
I'll like it, John.
I don't even think you follow me. It's okay.
No, I will follow you.
No, it's fine. Everybody follows you now because of the hat, you see.
Oh, my goodness, John. You're putting me on the spot.
Normally, Greg Host is trending, but now he's angry because it's just gone 5:30.
Thank you, John. And some trendy headlines for you. 3 people have been injured, with 1 person suffering severe burn wounds at a fire at an informal settlement in the Western Cape. NUMSA says they're on the verge of a national bus strike, and the International Criminal Court has issued arrest warrants for 2 Russian military commanders. We'll tell you why and other news at 6 o'clock.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Well, the R21 is becoming a trend. This is the queue down from Pretoria towards the airport. Saw it last night, seeing it again this afternoon. It's the roadworks just past the Olifantsfontein Road exit in Tembisa. Multiple lanes are closed. Backlogs halfway to St. George's Hotel. Very heavy. N1 up through Midrand, queuing up today between Buccleuch and a little obstruction around the New Road exit. And the N3 North is heavy backlogs. There's 2 crash scenes, one before Galuli's, one inside Galuli's. N3 is heavy from Germiston. It looks like a lot of motorists coming out of Joburg avoiding joining into that and sitting on the M2 instead down to Refinery Road in Germiston, looking for an alternative route. Coming out of Pietermaritzburg down to Durban. The traffic remains heavy. We put a video of that up on x.com at Traffic SA. You can have a look at it and decide probably the best option would be to stay in Pietermaritzburg. Let the truck clear, let the backlog from Ashburton clear towards Linfield Park, and maybe have a go at it later. It's a really quite extreme queue, that one. Cape Town today, the N1 service road in front of Canal Walk out towards the N7 looking busy. N7 south is heavy from the N1 down towards 4 Trekker Road in Goodwood, and some development works around the Bayside Mall having an impact on the lanes available on Bloberg Road, moving off the coast towards Rats Drive. So that's quite slow. Into Tableview behind that Marine Drive, queuing up from Sunset Beach through towards that Bloberg Road junction. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
This is SAFM Sports with Doming Kapele.
Alrighty, in your sports this hour, the Premier Soccer League has confirmed the dates, venues and kick-off times for the Nedbank Cup round of 16 fixtures. The University of Pretoria and Morocco Swallows will kick off the action on the 13th of March at Tuks Stadium, and this will be followed by clashes between Sekhukhune United and AmaZulu the next day, and Milford FC and Stellenbosch FC on the 15th of March, and all three matches are scheduled to start at 7 p.m. On the 16th of March at 3 p.m, Richards Bay will host SuperSport United at Kingsway Litini Stadium, while Chippa United will entertain FC Ravens at Buffalo City Stadium in East London. And then later on in that evening at 6 p.m, defending champions Orlando Pirates will welcome Hungry Lions at Orlando Stadium. And then Sunday's action sees the General FC and TS Galaxy locking horns at Toyota Stadium. That is an afternoon kickoff at 3 p.m, followed by a contest between Mamelodi Sundowns and Maritzburg United at Loftus Versfeld Stadium, and that will be in the evening at 6 p.m. Then there's some DStv Premiership action tonight. Kaizer Chiefs will be desperate for a win when they take on Golden Arrows at the FNB Stadium tonight. They're looking for a boost before the Soweto Derby on Saturday. Then AmaZulu will take on Morocco Swallows, and then there's a Cape Derby between Cape Town City and Stellenbosch FC with kickoff for all the matches at 7:30. Then also some Champions League action returning tonight. Real Sociedad locking horns with Paris Saint-Germain. PSG have only won 2 of their 12 away games against Spanish sides in the tournament, and Real have only had been behind on the scoreboard for 37 minutes this season and haven't trailed in any of their home games so far. So an interesting match on the cards. And in the other fixture of the night, Bayern Munich takes on Lazio. In netball, with 2 weeks remaining before the commencement of the Netball World Youth Cup 2025 qualifiers Africa in Pretoria, Netball South Africa has finalized the 12 players who will represent the country in mid-March. The team went to a training camp 2 weeks ago with a total of 15 players, which has now been narrowed down to 12, and that final 12 will convene next week for last-minute preparation before the qualifiers. And following Jenny van Dijk's appointment as the head coach of the Spar Proteas, Precious Mthembu, the former assistant coach of the under-21 team, assumes the position of head coach, and she will be joined by another Spar Proteas legend, Phumza Maweni, as her assistant. In cricket, Johnny Besto says that he's all set for an emotional week as he becomes the 16th man to play 100 tests for England. Besto will reach the landmark in the 5th test against India, 12 years after making his debut against West Indies, and he follows Ben Stokes to a century of England caps after the captain achieved the milestone in the 3rd test of the series. Ending things off with some judo action, SA's athlete Michaela Whitbo has officially relocated to Gaborone in Botswana as she takes her career to the next level. The 28-year-old is already guaranteed a spot at the Olympics in Paris later this year because of her ranking on the continent, but has stated that she wants to achieve qualification outright in the few months that is remaining.
It was already in my head for a while to move because I felt like I was getting stuck. I was like at that place where I needed to move. And then I had the situation of where I could do the coaching with the Cameroonian. It was basically me training with the Cameroon coach in Botswana. So basically, I was already training with him. It's just that he couldn't sit in my chair.
Well, that's it. It's a wrap from my side for SAFM Sport. I'm Doming Kapele Mudimugyo. But before I leave, John, I've got an interesting stat to give you.
Okay.
So back in 1924, the Olympic Games, women made up 5% of the athletes. Guess how much percent it is when it comes to women representation this year.
This year, 5% in 1924.
Yeah.
50-50.
You are spot on.
Is it exactly 50-50?
It's 50%.
I was going to say it would be more women at the Olympic Games.
Yeah, but Mas.
Because I thought there might be, like, netball's not at the Olympic Games. The aquatics, men are taking part in artistic swimming now as well. So 50-50.
50%.
Excellent.
Absolutely amazing.
Do you know if it's the first time?
It is for the first time.
First time ever.
Yeah.
That is great.
50% of athletes there for the first time. So it's great. I'm waiting to see, 80% down the line.
Oh, you see, I think it's great that is right. So if you've got 100 meter sprint for men, 100 meter sprint for women, 200, 400, throughout the board.
Yep.
You've got whatever, diving 300 meters, diving, swimming. There's a medal for the man, medal for the woman. And that's 50-50 is where it should be.
Yeah.
Well
Great.
done to Sporting World. Changing the world. Well done. I like that stat.
Cheers, Jack.
That's my stat for Saturday. We're going to try and find that for 2 hours. You with SAFM. Finance in a sec.
The Eagles understand how crucial maximum points are as they rapidly want to climb up the ladder of the Premier League.
Jordan whips in once more. Richards at the back post! Carissa Richards has broken the deadlock at Selhurst Park!
But the Hatters know that they need something magical to escape from danger.
Forward run from Chong, deflection, Obene's header, and the Hatters lead! What a noise from the away end, the Kop end is stuck!
Experience the Premier League encounter between Crystal Palace FC and Luton Town FC on Saturday 9 March at 4 p.m. live on S3. Also available on SABC Plus and SABCsport.com. # we love it here. Brought to you by SABC Sport. For the love of the game.
Economic news on SAFM. Facts and figures you can count on.
Money Web Market updates in 20 minutes. Let's look ahead to that with Jimmy Moyaha. How's it, Jimmy?
How's it, John? How are you?
Yeah, I'm good. Thank you for asking.
Haven't spoken to you in a while.
It's been a while. Aldrin's been at work for a lot for a change, which is good. No, I'm kidding.
That's never a bad thing, right?
No, it's his show.
It's nice to have you visit us once in a while.
Yeah, just to pop in. It's like a little guest appearance.
There we go. The show later today, we've got quite an interesting show. But before we get to that, good afternoon to the listeners. Good afternoon to you and to Tumi and to the rest of the team. The show, we're looking at Cura results. Going to be speaking to their CEO. Their revenues were up, their dividends were up about 33% there, but there was still that 370 million rand impairment that they put through, and costs are still up about 19% there. So I'm going to dig into that with the CEO and try and make sense of those numbers. Also have a conversation with the ShopRite CEO. They seem to be shooting the lights out yet again. Last year, this time, they posted sales revenues up about 17.5%. This year, it's up about 14% on top of that. So they seem to be doing exceptionally well. And interestingly enough, they've got quite a bit of free cash flow on their on hand, and I'm going to see if we can figure out what they plan to do with that. I think they've outlined about 8.5 billion rands of capital expenditure that's going to go off this year, and we're going to see what that means for the business, what that means for any acquisitions or anything they have in store. And then we've got a conversation with Nedbank as well. We're going to speak to their chief financial officer around their numbers as well over the last year. It seems they were able to achieve all of their post-COVID targets that they outlined for themselves in March of 2021. They've achieved all of those in this year. So busy day on that side. And then because it is Tuesday, we've got a property segment on this side, and in that feature, we'll be taking a look at Hyprop. They recently concluded a deal that they started back in October of last year for the Table Bay Mall, and that seems to have gone through without any conditions. So we're going to speak to Hyprop, try and get a sense of what's happening there and what else they might have in the pipeline. But before we get to that, markets have been having quite an interesting day. Some markets better than others. I saw that at some point, Bitcoin touched $69,000 a coin there, and Henko Creer has been keeping an eye on the markets for us throughout the day. He joins me now to give us a quick snapshot of how the markets have been performing. Good afternoon, Henko. Thanks as always for keeping an eye on the markets. Nasdaq down, top 40 down in South Africa, but doesn't seem to matter. It seems all eyes are on Bitcoin.
Absolutely, Jimmy. Hello to you, Jimmy and John, and good evening to all the listeners. Yes, and then You see this NASDAQ about almost 2% weaker at this stage, now 1.8% down. And then the S&P 500 almost 1% weaker, and the Dow Jones trading 0.5% down. So really a red day, and US markets quite under pressure this afternoon. You and I spoke a bit earlier, and we suspect that it might have something to do with NVIDIA that's housed in that on that NASDAQ stock exchange. But then over to Europe. Looks a little bit better, but not much. The FTSE 100 and the DAX finished 0.1% stronger at the end of their trading day. And then the CAC 40 in France, which was quite green the last couple of days, now finishing in the red and losing 0.1% this afternoon. Then the JSE here by us, it lost 0.5% today and closing at a level of 72,242 points. The industrial index 1.5% weaker. The financial index 0.6% down, but then you see the resources index trying to make up for that, and the resources index finishing 1.5% stronger today. And I'll get to the companies contributing to that, and it's mainly your gold mining companies. But companies among the 10 largest ones on the JSE that really had a terrible day were Naspers, which lost 3.5% today, followed by Prosus, which was 3% weaker. And then you'll find the banks, Standard Bank and First Rand, each losing 2%, followed by Anglo and BHP, closing the day 1% weaker. Although Glencore had a wonderful day and it gained 2% today. And now we get to those gold mining companies, Harmony, which gained 8.5% today. Goldfields, 7% up. Anglo Gold finished 6% stronger, and Thungela as well as DRD Gold, each finishing 4.5% stronger. You find another company here or there that also had a great day, like Nedbank, which gained 4%, and the MultiChoice Group coming back today and now gaining 5%. But then back to the negative side of things, NTN lost 5.5% today. Zogu Sun and Alphamin finished the day 5% down. Implats 3.5% weaker. Sibanye-Stillwater lost 5%. And then Telkom as well as SPAR each 3% down at the end of the day. On the commodities market, the price of gold sky high at this stage, $2,131 an ounce. This time last year, none of us would have said to each other that gold will reach these levels again, but here it is, $2,131 an ounce. Silver is on the dot, $24. Platinum is currently trading at $880. And palladium at $940 an ounce. The price of Brent crude now sitting at $82.30 a barrel. Do remember to go and fill up your car throughout the course of this evening before the petrol price hike tomorrow night, midnight. And then if we have a look at the exchange rate, nice to say that the rand is picking up its head and trying to look a bit better. You're not paying 19 rand anymore for a US dollar, now trading at 18 rand 90. To the US dollar, then 24 rand to the pound, 20 rand 55 cents to the euro, and 12 rand 30 to the Australian dollar. A Bitcoin, yes, earlier today, $69,000, now sitting at $68,500. That's more or less 1.3 million rand for a whole Bitcoin. Jimmy, that's how the markets performed today.
What an interesting performance. Definitely going to be digging into some of those numbers a little later on. I'm interested to see what we make of the GDP numbers that came out earlier today, because I, for one, am not really too impressed with 0.1%, and obviously that's not a function of some of the companies in South Africa, but rather the conditions in South Africa. But we'll dig into these and other stories just after 6. For now, John, back to you and the team.
My eyeballs still water when I see the price of a Bitcoin. When I started, it hurts. It hurts. Jimmy, thank you very much. MoneyWeb Market Update coming up in about 14 minutes.
Call us on 086 000 2032.
Matlakala in Davidson, what do you have to say?
Yeah, no, John, thank you very much, man. I just want to echo the words of the previous caller. I think her name was Precious, from Limpopo.
Precious, yes.
Yeah, she just stole the words out of my mouth, John. I've been trying to say this all along. You know, John, we are sick and tired of people telling us lies. Yes, our government, there are many things that they are doing wrong, but let us not say there's nothing that has been achieved. There's a lot that we can mention. Yes, we have the right to criticize, but let's also say those things that they did right. For example, for the fact that me and you can have a conversation, it's a benefit. I hear some of the voice note, you can hear the tone, it's a foreign tone. In their own countries, they cannot criticize their government, but here in South Africa, they criticize our government, and we're saying that nothing has been achieved. No, John.
You see, I agree with you wholeheartedly, Matlakala. We were just talking about this while Jimmy was on. And I look at where I work here today. And compared to when I started on SAFM, which was, it was even the late 90s. So how things have changed in this building for the good. We got young people. We've got fantastic talent that are working on the SABC all across the board. You can't say that things are going backwards. But I agree with you, Matlakala, that we can't.
There's a lot to be done.
But we can't. We can't stop criticizing. However, we can't say, "Well, job done."
No, that's true. I'm saying let us criticize, also acknowledging. For those who are saying, like the previous caller from Bloemfontein, hey, I'm educated and blah 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 blah. Yeah. Having a degree doesn't make you better than the person who doesn't have a degree.
But look, you try and convince somebody who's done a degree, who's living in a shack, who doesn't have running water and electricity, that life is better today than it was 50 years ago. You see, it's a difficult thing to convince them that.
No, but John, look, if it's better for someone, it means my turn is coming.
The fact that they have a degree for free, maybe, is they must be.
You see, he's having a degree via NEFSAS, but he's still complaining. While in the olden days, I myself wanted to be something I couldn't because those opportunities were not there.
Oh yeah, completely. You didn't even have the opportunities.
I'm undereducated now, John. I'm a trade union official. I've won cases at the CCMA without a degree against the advocates. I never had those opportunities they are having today. Yeah. But they are saying nothing has been done.
All right. So, it's got to be balanced. Matlakala and Davidson, thank you very much. Let's talk about budgets, I think, with JCK. Hello, JCK.
Hi, John Bulligate. Are you well?
Yeah, I'm always well. Go ahead.
John Bulligate, before I get into what I want to talk about, the topic of what I want to talk about, Bulligate, can I give you an assignment, please?
Okay, go.
You know what is happening with this SAFA? On the 15th of each month, it's done and dusted. But people are paid on the 1st, on the 3rd, on the 4th.
Yes.
Can you ask them why is the money done and dusted on the 15th? It's just waiting to press the payment. Is there anything that they are gaining from that?
So
are they making money out of that? Because the money is in the bank.
So help me out. So they're telling help me out. So they're telling you on the 15th that your money is approved and will be paid on the 1st.
Yes, that is what is going on with SAFA.
Is that not the date? Is that not the date that the government pays all their staff on the 15th?
Yeah, that's why I'm smelling fishery. Maybe the money in the bank, somebody is getting the interest there, and the interest can run into millions and millions. You understand? Can you just find out for me out, please?
Okay.
Will you do that?
The last time I had a chat about SASA, I think the person I spoke to said they didn't want to talk to me again. So we'll try. We will, because there's nothing that makes me more angry than stealing from poor people. Yeah, that really gets my butt.
You see, what arrogant is that? Those people, they said they're going to serve the people. Now they're there, they're working, they forget about the people. What's wrong with us, man?
Okay,
anyway, this budget, the budget is so nice from province to province, so nice. But when it comes to what they talk about the budget, nothing is implemented. People are suffering about water, but while we've got billions and billions of rents for water infrastructure, for the roads and everything, at the end of the day, they return money to the treasury. And then what ANC said, they said, no more to return money to treasury. If I return money to treasury, then I'm going to be accountable for that. But they're not doing that. What worries me is we've got set checks in this budget, but they're not using that money wisely. Can they do something about that? Let me rest my case for Bulligate.
JCK, thank you very much. It's so right. How many times you hear that? Yeah, we got billions for this and we got millions for that. And at the end of the day, somebody's sitting at home without electricity or water. I'm going home without water. Most of the west of Johannesburg, including Soweto, doesn't have water because of an electricity fault at one of the Rand water pumps. So the pumps aren't pumping water and it's huge, out as far as Brits. So Soweto, Brits, the whole West Rand. I've got to go fill up the tankers. So, yeah, can you blame service delivery for that? Can you blame if an electricity thing blows up? I don't know if you can. Herbert is in Port Elizabeth. Hello, Herbert. How's it? What do you have to say? Oh, sorry, Pretoria. How's it?
I'm okay, yourself.
Lekker, Herbert. Sorry, what did I say? I don't know. What do you say, Herbert?
Yes, John, I differ a bit with the last two callers, not the guy from Mosina, but the other two that spoke about,
giving credit where credit is due.
Yes. So I'm saying, where I'm sitting, that in any country, government, there's always going to be something they're going to do. All right?
Yes.
So I'm saying that the ANC government has done something, okay? I'm not disputing that at all, okay? But I'm saying they could have done 10 times more. All right?
Yes.
The houses that the other caller spoke about, they could have built 10 times more. They could have built better houses with better quality. All right? Because the current houses that they're building now, it's inferior material, inferior quality, and ANC keeps on counting the numbers, says we provided so many houses. I'm saying if it was not the bailouts of the SOEs that are not profitable, some money could have been taken, could have done something else, could have provided health care, could have built more schools. We're struggling with schools, with school spaces now. They could have built more schools.
Yeah.
They could have created jobs. All right? I'm not saying that they are not doing anything, but I'm just saying, due to the way that they've been running the country, we could have done 10 times more. The youth will have been employed by today.
Yeah,
we could have been getting water.
I find it interesting what you're saying, Herbert, because that's where the two people that are discussing this conversation meet, is where the sentence ends in what the government is doing. The ANC has supplied free healthcare, full stop, and you go, well, that's fantastic, comma, but it's not the greatest healthcare in the world, and you got to stand in queue for hours. Full stop.
That's where the hospital today.
That's where the two. That's where the two.
Healthcare.
Yeah. So the first person is ending on the very positive. The second person is only hearing the second half of the sentence. We need to realize, as you say, give credit where credit's due, but it could have been better, and it can be better.
And we are saying we have given you 30 years to prove yourself that you've got what it takes. However, there's been billions and billions and billions of rand that have been wasted due to corruption and all the other things that are not right. We are saying enough is enough.
All right.
Let's give somebody else a chance that can be able to do better with the money we have already.
Herbert in Pretoria, thank you very much. The last caller for today. Thank you very much for your participation as well. We're going to one more. We are going to one more caller. No, we're not. Or are we? I don't know. Oh, we are. I can't push the button there. So let's go to Colin in Cape Town. Colin, are you there? How's it? Go ahead.
Hi, John. I gave up hope. It's almost time for you to finish.
Quickly, go ahead.
John, I was listening to that guy from Finland, an ambassador.
The ambassador of Norway.
Norway, not Finland. Do you know, when I was in the military, on the borders, we used to get such a lot of tin foods and confiscate stuff and things like that. It was Norway, Sweden, Finland, all the Scandinavian countries were supplying food and even arms, you know what I mean? And I was quite surprised. Everybody thinks it's just Russia. And you know, Putin's regime at the moment, it's got no interest actually in Africa. It was a USSR, the Soviet Union, what they call the Iron Curtain. Those are the ones who looked after South Africa for freedom fighters and supplied arms and that. Not Putin and his cronies, not the Russia they got now. So I just want to put the record straight.
All right.
That the Scandinavian countries also helped the freedom fighters to fight against the apartheid.
All right, Colin.
Thank you, John.
Thank you, Colin, putting the record straight. Today's parting shot, we leave you with the words of Dale Carnegie, who once said, most of the important things in the world have been accomplished by people who have kept on trying when there seemed to be no hope at all. Terence in Kakamas has our credits today. Mafik Izola plays us out. I will see you soon. Have a great weekend.
Good afternoon, SAFM listeners. I just want to give special credits to the following people: Fusani, Temba, Sianda, Kanya, Charles, and on the sports desk, to me. And as your special host, Jon Gericke. Well done, guys. Well done. This comes from Terence Kakamas.
Jon Gericke on SAFM.
Kodwa masandana bangenashi